seconds to anthem.
What song are we trying?
Right now.
Engaging anthem in
So we
5 seconds. 5 seconds, engaging anthem. Engaging anthem now! Jake, dude, what happened? Jake! Jake!
Vanogita moru purita nonda kantai mantunat nyagi toru ilugar para honra para gloria abiba islasen para honra para gloria abiba islasen para todo y tempo y paz para hita dan gini langit na bendición contra y peligro na fansa fuham Deus protegis languam contra y peligro na fansa fuham Deus protegis languam.
Driving round, windows down, warm breeze and a soulful sound. I got my mind made up about where I wanna be.
microphone? I did.
Yeah, there's always
Good morning, Guam. Good morning, Sabrina.
Good morning.
Hey, it's Thursday, the 11th day of June. Starting it off with one of our faves. You know, we only play local music. For containing COVID, it's the KUAM News Takeover, Guam's favorite, 93.9 FM. I got ya. Morning, morning. As always, a big, huge show. As we'll go a little more in depth. Your elected leaders want to give you money. Right? They want to give us money. Or are we getting money? Who's getting money? The kids?
People that are eligible.
Okay, so we're going to find out as there's a new relief bill before the senators of the Guam Congress Hall. We'll get Senator Amanda Shelton. I believe it's her bill, and she's coming on later to kind of explain. We'll also hear from the minority leader, Senator Tello Taidagui, as it was getting hot in the Guam Congress Hall yesterday.
Whew.
But you know what? One thing you got to appreciate about these senators is even when they're fighting with each other, they're maintaining their social distance. So, yeah, it's going to be pretty juicy this morning. Good morning. The show is proudly brought to you by Cabo Enterprises, Ambrose Inc., IT&E, Coast 360, and the Bank of Guam. And as always, there's so many ways to catch the show right here on the radio. Good morning. We got an audio stream, Docomo Channel 10. Of course, live stream, KUAM.com and at the KUAM News app. And then at 8 o'clock, we throw it on to KUAM TV 11 for the last couple hours of the multimedia broadcast extravaganza on our award-winning social media networks at KUAM. That's Edward R. Murrow award-winning. Thank you, and good morning to our KUAM News Facebook Live viewers. Please share, like, comment, question on the broadcast, and we'll get it out there. We see the comments for the most part, and we got Jason Salas in today. One half of our digital dude team who's streaming this whole show. We also have Jacob Hari Sablan pushing buttons on the iPad mini that's powering this whole thing. Good morning, Bree.
Good morning.
How was your evening last night?
You know, I thought I was going to sleep, but then I was watching session, and I just kind of stayed up. You know, they have to end at 10, so I stayed up till 10, and then, of course, I had to edit some of the videos together, so I didn't get to sleep till around maybe 11, because my son was still up, and he's like,
wow.
I'm hungry. So
Yeah, it was pretty entertaining. I started watching when there was the whole thing with Senator Moylan and withdrawal. You know, yep, plenty withdrawals. More withdrawals than the ATM going on down there at the Guam legislature. On that note, let's go ahead and get right into and dive into our day's COVID-19 headlines with the very latest for the KUAM News team. Good morning, Sabrina Salas-Matanani.
Off at 8, good morning, everyone. The number of COVID-19 cases on Guam has gone up again. 198 samples ran through Public Health's lab on Wednesday, 2 turning up positive. This brings the total number of COVID cases on Guam to 182, with 5 deaths, 164 recoveries, and 13 active cases. Free community testing continues today at the Maritzo Senior Center from 1 to 4 p.m. You do not have to have symptoms, just bring an ID. That will be the last testing for this week. It restarts next Tuesday with testing scheduled for the PD Mayor's office from 9 a.m. to 12 o'clock in the afternoon. Again, you do not need symptoms to get tested, just go and get tested. Emergency food distribution resumes today. Boxes of food are being distributed at the Teedson Upper Baseball Field and in Jotnya at the St. Francis Church from 6 a.m. to 10 o'clock this morning. Some drama late Wednesday afternoon at the Guam legislature, just as senators were gathered in the Committee of the Whole to discuss a bill by Senator Jim Moylan to roll back the gross receipts tax from 5% to 4%. Moylan abruptly withdrew it. He said he was still working on amendments when his bill was pushed up on the agenda and felt it was a move to sabotage the measure before it was ready for debate. This sparked partisan tensions in the hall between Republicans who wanted to table the measure and Democrat Senator Regine Biscoe Lee, who took exception to the accusation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to the panel. Mr. Chairman, of course we understand that this Bill 935 was moved up on the agenda after 367 and 162 had successfully moved theirs to the bottom of the list. At this point, Mr. Chairman, I had previously requested to set aside Bill 935 in the motion, which failed. Obviously, Mr. Chairman, I do need time to make amendments to this bill, and it's disappointing, and I feel it's unfair that I wasn't allowed that time, as I seen my other colleagues were. So obviously, Mr. Chairman, I feel I'm being sabotaged in this position. It is not fair, and therefore, Mr. Chairman, I withdraw Bill 9-35.
My colleagues, that motion has been made and received. There is no debate on that motion.
It's a withdrawal.
Senator,
It's a withdrawal, sir.
so the withdrawal
Has been received.
has been received,
There's nothing there.
and there's not, okay. Senator Lee, you have a point of personal privilege? You wanted to,
Sujos Masi, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I feel compelled to rise to defend this body against an untrue and unsubstantiated attack on our collective character. Mr. Chair, the notion that the legislature is in a position to debate the lowering of the BPT as a result of, quote,
Point of order,
sabotage
Mr. Chair,
has
where
no
are we?
factual information and no factual foundation. Mr. Chair, the author of this measure introduced the bill
was
in
withdrawn.
January of
Senator Therese, you're out of order. We're listening to
Mr.
point of
Chair,
privilege.
a point of personal
Point of
privilege.
order,
Are we on,
Mr. Chair.
Mr.
The
Chair?
bill has already been withdrawn. Mr. Chair, point of order. The bill has been withdrawn.
I apologize, Mr. Chair. I'm still on my point of personal privilege.
Thank you. Please continue.
Sujos Masi. The author of this measure introduced the bill in January of last year. Mr. Chair, that's January 2019. If the author is not in a position to amend the legislation 17 months later, that's not because of a conspiracy against the bill. The author of Bill 9 is the one who proposed that this measure be added to our agenda today.
Point of information, Mr.
Not
Chair.
on the first day of session.
The author of the bill felt
Today.
he was being sabotaged. So point of information.
Senator Tello, you're out of order. She's already been recognized for point of privilege, personal privilege.
She's talking about a bill
Can we
that's
just
been
allow-
withdrawn.
Mr. Chairman,
Chair.
point of
No,
order.
this is a
Mr.
point of
Chairman,
personal privilege.
I'm going to ask for legal counsel's intervention in interpreting the rules. Come on, we're not going to allow this.
Just a point of personal privilege,
Mr. Chairman,
Chair.
if I may cite the grounds from which you may cite point of personal privilege, in no way was a comment meant to impugn the character or the object or the responsibility or job of any member of this body, to include me.
Mr. Chair, I
Mr.
still have
Chairman,
the point of personal privilege.
I'm going to motion to overrule the chair. This is not acceptable. Joe, come on. Let's not grandstand. You want to kill him on
I'm
the
sorry,
media?
Mr. Chair, I still have the floor.
My
Mr.
colleagues,
Chairman.
we will recess and I'll get with legal
Thank
to
you,
get
Mr.
it clear.
Chair. Thank
Okay?
you.
Moylan issued a statement that he plans to introduce another bill which will be a tiered approach and will work collectively with the 2021 budget discussions. Quote, we also need to make sure that the revised measure will prevent the opposition from issuing scare tactics to public sector employees that such actions result in furloughs, since that is wrong, end quote. The Democratic Party of Guam also issued a statement saying once again Senator Moylan has demonstrated that he cares more about talking the talk than walking the walk. After successfully moving to place Bill 9 on the agenda, he withdrew the measure because he was not prepared to defend it. After 17 months of seeking this bill's placement on the agenda, Senator Moylan now claims that he was sabotaged because a majority of his colleagues agreed that this bill should be debated today. Senator Moylan's like the guy who sits on the bench blaming the quarterback, but chokes as soon as he's on the field. Meanwhile, more drama late last night as senators began debate on Senator Amanda Shelton's Bill 367, which establishes the Azuda y Mangafa Help for Families program. The legislation would provide funding assistance or payments to families with young adults, students, and disabled individuals impacted by the COVID crisis. Although the legislation indicated local sources of funding during the Committee of the Whole, the Leon Guerrero Tenorio administration's financial team indicated that CARES Act funding could be used. Senator Tello Taitigui attempted to add an amendment to the bill to incorporate language that CARES Act funding may be used as a funding source and remove the local funding options. However, her amendment failed. The author, Senator Shelton, then proffered an amendment leaving the local funding option in the bill, but then also added the same amendment as Taitigui's. We should note the governor has said, and a lawsuit was cited during session, that the legislature cannot appropriate federal funds, which includes CARES Act funding. Tensions were high on the floor last night because questions were raised that if the administration can use CARES Act funding for the bill, why is the legislation needed?
In the funding source, letter E, any coronavirus aid relief and economic security CARES Act funding available to Imagahagan Guahan. So in addition to the funding sources that were original to the bill, we add the CARES Act funding, which Mr. Carlson shared with us this evening would be the source of funding. So I don't wish to strike out any other option that we originally put into the bill, but to make mention of the CARES Act, which was announced tonight, will be used.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I thought the point was made that we were not allowed as a legislature to tell the governor what to do with this, with the CARES Act, any federal funds. So why are we even entertaining putting an option in there?
Mr. Chair, I'm going to have to object to this because it's not. Excuse me? Excuse me, Mr. Chair, someone's babbling back here. What?
Thank you. My colleagues, let's keep the order. Senator Tello,
Crying?
please complete.
Something? I don't know what, but making a lot of noise. And I have the floor, so out of respect, please, you'll have your time. So, Mr. Chair, we've heard from the administration. We heard that there is no funding available. $10 million. Somebody is going to be short, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, I too am questioning if it was not appropriate to suggest to the governor to use coronavirus aid relief in the last floor amendment. How is it possibly appropriate to put that into this amendment? We're just playing games here tonight, unfortunately. That's what it seems like. We went through this whole thing with BBMR and DOA, and they wouldn't answer the questions thoroughly for the first 4 funding sources. So now we're going to insist that they use the first 4 funding sources that they have insisted they do not want to use anymore. They repeated it maybe 5 times to me. No, Senator, we want to use the CARES Act now. Despite when I told them it's our choice what we're going to use, they said, no, we don't want those to be available anymore, and the only thing available is CARES. And speaking of CARES, they said that of the $20 million, they have $117 million, first of all. They have set aside $20 million for the small business program, and they said there's still money available there. They set aside $20 million for this public assistance payments to individuals. They said they've only spent 13. So there's $7 million right there. And they're offering to use it for this program. When everybody here knows, Mr. Chair, that they could do this program tomorrow, they could have done it 3 months ago. They could do it anytime they want if they're going to use CARES money. They don't need this bill. But, we are trying to go through this charade of we're going to pass a bill, we're going to say it's CARES money that they're going to get to use.
There were several things that have been brought up in this debate. One was a 1978 court case brought up by one of our colleagues. And that was an opinion of one of our colleagues. But also there was another one saying that, almost saying that this bill is not needed. In essence, this bill is worthless. And Mr. Chair, that's a difference of opinion as well, because Unfortunately, we have said that.
Point
in
of
this-
information, Mr. Chair. Point of information. It was not said that it was not
Point of
needed.
order,
It said
Mr.
that
Chair.
It could be.
The Vice
Mr.
Speaker
Chair,
has the
please
floor.
give some
Point of order,
decorum.
Mr.
There can
Chair.
be some
The Vice
respect.
Speaker
I
has the
have
floor.
the floor,
Ladies,
Mr. Chair. Just show some respect.
So just
Ladies,
Let me
my
finish.
colleagues, the next time I have to gavel down and I'm going to call you out of order, I'm going to have the sergeant arms do what he needs to do.
Concern. It's been mentioned over and over that this isn't needed, that it could be done. But the point is, we've been in this crisis for going on 3 months. We've been looking at the CARES Act money for a while, and it hasn't been done. So we are here to lead and make sure, to the best of our abilities, it does get done. I can probably think of 20 things off the top of my head that could be done with that CARES Act money, and I could question why those 20 things haven't been done. But here we are having an opportunity to say, this is important. We stand for it. And we're going to do our best to make sure it happens because we actually care.
And Mr. Chair, I understand that we had many concerns from our colleagues who do not want to see any of the local funding used, and to be reassured, as was told to us in the Committee of the Whole earlier this evening. So we aren't appropriating any federal funds here, and we are putting an extra measure to ensure that the CARES Act funds are utilized before any local government of Guam funds are to be touched.
After an amendment to the amendment, Senator Shelton's initial amendment regarding CARES Act funding passed. The bill was then moved to the third reading file. Session resumes Friday, 10 a.m. for the 2020 State of Judiciary Address to be delivered by Supreme Court Chief Justice F. Philip Carbolito. And in other action, Attorney Dana Gutierrez was unanimously confirmed as the newest Superior Court judge. In regional news, we now head over to Saipan, where our Tomas Menglotnya is standing by. Hi, Tomas.
Good morning, Brian. Chris, here's the latest making news from the Northern Mariana Islands. The CNMI Attorney General has sent his opinion to members of the legislature regarding this news, of course, as we've reported, comes amid controversial authorization for overtime for cabinet members amid a current pandemic public health emergency. Here's more in this report. Take a listen.
It's a question that ultimately requires an answer.
CNMI Attorney General Edward Manabusan weighing in publicly on payments to cabinet members during Super Typhoon Yutu.
In this government, there's your base salary, and there's overtime for working beyond 40 hours, and then there's extra pay that's allowed by law for certain group of employees. And so my letter centered around whether or not the extraordinary payment has to be reviewed for consistency with the law.
That letter sent to the public auditor in January requests a review of payments to employees across the board.
So let's just say that there's a finding that that the payments were not made in accordance with law. What do you do, right? I mean, you may have to go and recover the money, or what is the remedy? That has to be yet decided. We don't know.
The 25-page document addressed to OPA now in the hands of Representative Ralph Yumel. He's the chair of the House Special Committee on Federal Assistance and Disaster-Related Funding.
There is a comment there that says that there's no legal basis for the overtime, but it didn't even also mention that the governor did anything illegal.
He's concerned history will repeat itself amid the pandemic.
How do we fund this, the overtime and the extra pay, if FEMA decides not to reimburse us again? We don't know, but we'll be preparing for that impact.
The CNMI Governor's Press Secretary Kevin Bautista says the administration awaits guidance.
The opinion and the investigation is still ongoing, and what we are intending to do is to work with the Attorney General's office and the Office of the Public Auditor in complying with what has been stipulated on.
There's implications as attention turns to disaster hours during COVID-19.
From there, use that in terms of the determination of what what's going to be paid out in terms of what is considered disaster pay or COVID-19 pay for this definition of the pandemic.
Tomas Maglonia for KUAM News on Saipan.
Reported that opinion was released in January to address to OPA, and some members of the legislature are just now receiving a copy of it. And in some news with PUA and the FTUC programs, the CNMI Department of Labor officially announces that it will be accepting applications for pandemic unemployment assistance as a result of COVID-19 for workers in the CNMI starting June 17 through December 26. The application filing dates say that the individuals may apply for PUA if they have had weeks of unemployment on or after February 2nd through December 26th. As a result of COVID-19, PUA is available for individuals who've lost their jobs, had their regular work hours reduced, or were self-employed individuals but no longer able to work as a result of the coronavirus. Individuals, again, are able to apply for PUA applications from June 17 through December 26 in the CNMI. Claimants may apply for PUA either online or in person. To submit a PUA application online, those in the CNMI can visit hiremarianas.com. And also, the CNMI Department of Labor would like to inform the business community, government agencies, and the public that it's going to host a virtual conference from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. via Zoom on Monday, June 15. This virtual conference will provide an update on the status of PUA and FPUC programs here in the CNMI, and will also feature general guidelines for completing the different phases of the program. Because the Zoom meeting has a limit of 100 people, the press release that was put out last night says that the CNMI Department of Labor will be streaming the virtual conference live through the CNMI Office of the Governor Facebook page. Again, that conference is from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. via Zoom and Facebook Live, Monday, June 15, for those in the CNMI. And here are the latest numbers from the Commonwealth Healthcare Corporation's dashboard. We see that we still remain at 30 cumulative cases confirmed for COVID-19 with 2 deaths. And some updated numbers from the hospital regarding community-based testing initiative. 6,647 people have been tested on Saipan, 414 people tested on Tinian, and Rhoda so far has tested 462 people. Bree and Chris, that's the latest here in the Northern Marianas.
Thanks, Tomas. In national news, just one day after laying George Floyd to rest, his brother is testifying before Congress about police brutality. Skylar Henry has more details from Capitol Hill.
Philonise Floyd arrived on Capitol Hill to testify about police brutality. His brother was laid to rest in Houston Tuesday after dying under the knee of a police officer.
The man who took his life, who suffocated him for 8 minutes and 46 seconds, he still called him sir as he begged for his life.
Mr. Floyd said police officers need to learn necessary force.
I'm here to ask you to make it stop. Stop the pain. Stop us from being tired. George called for help and he was ignored. Please listen to the call I'm making to you now.
Democrats say millions of Americans are crying out for change.
We must have real reform and real change, and frankly, anybody who stands in the way of it is going to get bowled over.
Republicans say it's time for real solutions to police brutality, but say defunding police is not the answer.
It is pure insanity to defund the police. And the fact that my Democrat colleagues won't speak out against this crazy policy is just that frightening.
George Floyd's death has prompted Congress to put together new laws aimed at reforming police practices. House Democrats unveiled their plans on Monday, while Senate Republicans are still working on their plan. White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows and advisor Jared Kushner held talks with Republican Senator Tim Scott Tuesday about what kind of reforms the Trump administration will accept.
Yeah, we're not going to get into specifics. I think to negotiate it in the press would do a disservice to the senator and his colleagues.
CBS News obtained a draft of Senator Scott's plan. It includes new reporting requirements for deadly use of force incidents by police, increased funding for body cameras, and de-escalation training. Skylar Henry, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
Tweeted praise this morning for Congressman Jim Jordan speaking out against defunding the police. He also says he plans to speak with faith leaders in Dallas tomorrow to address justice disparities. And I know we keep stressing this, but the Department of Labor is highly recommending this, as is the Guam Bankers Association, that if you are planning to apply for pandemic unemployment assistance or the FPUC that you are urged to opt for direct deposit. You need to make sure you have a bank account, collect necessary account information, including your bank's routing number, and visit Guam DOL's website, their online portal. When you apply, it's hireguam.com. If you have direct deposit, the quicker you'll get your money. And that is your Banking 671 report, brought to you by the Bank of Guam and Coast 360, and that is your news.
Okay, and Hafide, and good morning, everybody. I just want to jump in here. With this just in, we threw it in the comments a few moments ago, but GDOE and Adelup are both telling us if you are one of the many families on Guam that wants to avail of the food distribution program, food is going on today at both the Tizen and Jotnya locations, but our friends at Adelup are saying if you could direct yourself, if you can, go to the St. Francis Church at the Jotnya site until 10 p.m. because as of 6:30 a.m., there are several hundred bags that still remain. There is little to no line. So if you need food, I mean, Dedido was crazy the other day. You and I both experienced that firsthand. But if you do need food, there's a line at Tizen right now. There is little to no line in Jotnya. So if you need one, zip on over to Jotnya. They'll be able to help you out.
That's right. And that is going on again. It started at 6 o'clock this morning, and it wraps up at 10 a.m. You can also give a call to your village mayor, because I believe they're also distributing food commodities.
I think they get boxes of fruit or other commodities that they give away. So 6:45. Yeah, head over to St. Francis. I drove by there on the way in, and it was really no line. But Tijen, wow, I got a video I shot. The cars, it's curved all the way around the baseball field back towards the Guam Police Department headquarters.
That was this morning?
Yeah, that was just
wow.
Little like an hour ago maybe.
And that just goes to show that there are still people out there that need assistance. And I think what Senator Therese Terlahi was mentioning last night in the debate that she saw, that there is some people have only gotten, that initial stimulus. Some people are still waiting for stimulus funds. What the EIP is anywhere between $1,200 to $2,400. For some, that's all they've received in the past 3 months.
Right.
March, April, May, June, 3 months.
Okay. Well, Chris, you said you passed by the Jotnya site this morning. Could we just make a safe and probably reliable assumption that the mayor-elect of Jotnya is out there is probably directly also helping out with the effort?
Yeah, I guess we could.
Mayor Bill's probably out there and everything like that, really getting to work. He's hitting the ground running already.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks for that, Jay.
Yeah, seems like he's a hands-on guy.
I mean,
He was out there painting the library just the day after he was elected.
Right, hitting the ground, not just running, but it looks like at a sprint.
Yeah. Well, I mean, June 30th, that's the deadline to apply for candidacy, and so he already indicated he's going to be doing that.
Right.
So he's officially in office for a couple of weeks, and then apply, and then we'll see what happens.
Isn't that crazy? You just got elected and it's like, oh, by the way, now I got to, hang on, guys, I'll be right back. Give me like 45 minutes. I got to zip down to Ganya and fill up my candidacy packet.
Hey, can you sign my petition again?
Or maybe he had to,
Right.
at the time that he filed his first one.
So that was definitely some interesting highlights at session. And this has been happening since before the COVID. This, I don't know what to call it, Bree. I guess pettiness is kind of, it's one thing if you're going to fight with each other about, things you believe in or policy points. You know what I mean? Like, you're for this, I'm not. We're just going to debate it. But that's not really what's happening. What's happening is, since before the COVID, certain senators get their mics cut off. Certain senators, every time they try and speak, other senators will jump in and cut them off. It's that kind of like pettiness, and I can understand if it was like real debate that was really about issues, but it's not. It seems like certain senators get butthurt when other ones talk, and they're just going to do whatever they can to shut them up or interrupt or point of personal privilege. And it's just frustrating. But, hey, what I like about it is the COVID, everybody has time to watch the session. So I know the IT guys of the Guam legislature have seen the spike in their YouTube views because people got nothing to do but watch you guys. And it's so great. I'm really excited because we're watching this petty behavior. And it's almost like we have some senators who are the grown-ups of the legislature. And then we have other senators who are like little babies, and they just, point of personal privilege, you can't say that. Right? That's what it seems like to me.
I thought what was interesting is when they go into recess, right? Then you see, I wish the audio was still rolling, because you could see just from their
body language,
that they're still going at it. I mean, with the, what?
And I mean, there was such hope and there was such promise when we swore in this ladies' legislature, right? It was the futurist Familauan, and I mean, I'm not saying they're disagreeing. No one's saying they're disagreeing with each other because they're women, but I just felt like that was really the narrative, was that we're all going to work together. We're all on the same page. But yeah, clearly they're not just on the same page. A lot of them are in different books.
I gotta say though, we're talking about this Bill 367, and to put in language regarding the CARES Act, whether it may be used or not used. The point to me is the fact that there's this CARES Act funding, and do we really need this bill? If the governor could solve this today, like Teresa Law said, we don't need a bill. We can just use the money. If DOA and BBMR were there at the legislature saying, we don't want to use this local funding, we don't have this local funding here or there in these 4 different areas, but we want to use the CARES Act funding. Okay, good. Session over. Use the CARES Act funding.
Yeah, that's exactly what they did for the Ajudan Programa Salapi Benalis Dagu para Itautau Mizu. That's what they did for that. That's what they did for what's the GITA program that no one's getting approved for? The small business
grant or something.
Yeah.
So there's $20 million for that program, and there's $20 million for the Programa Islapi Ajudan Itautau.
Yeah.
And I think it was mentioned that $13 million has been paid out so far, and then there's $7 million that's still there. And with the GITA program, Nestor did a story yesterday. I'm not even sure if anything's been paid out yet.
I don't think anything has, but there was one small business that was awarded $50 or something, right?
No way.
I thought I heard that in there something. But you know what we did get Melanie Mendiola of GITA yesterday in that story with Nestor, and she said that there were just so many applications that weren't approved and had errors. So.
Mm-hmm. And this is 117.8, I believe, so rounded off to $118 million of that $40 million for programs to help local businesses and local families. So do the math. The rest of that is going to teleworking, laptops, cars for GPD, GFD, the little plastic
laptop bags,
shields. Yeah.
Okay, Chris, I wanted to just throw this in there. Interesting insight from our good friend Glenn Lujan, who is not just going to achieve top fan status on Facebook, he's going to be like epic status, I would assume. Glenn just goes, and to your comment about the fact that a lot of these let's call them skirmishes are with the female members, and he goes, Defino, you guys, Chris, can you please play the climax song, There's a Meeting in the Ladies' Room? That's funny. Okay, that's funny, and we know funny. Glenn, good one on that. Okay.
What's also funny is we know that song.
Yeah. Okay, and there's also a really good shout out from us, from our friend Anthony, who I believe is in the military because he's stationed. He says, Hafa from Germany.
Oh, wow. Hi, Anthony. Thanks for logging on and watching this extravaganza.
They don't even make it to the ladies' room. They don't. And you know what gets me is it's no self-control. I mean, you just can't help it. You just got a point of personal privilege. You got to cut speakers off, and it's embarrassing, really. And we'll get Senator Amanda Shelton, because you're right, Bree. I mean, we stood up these whole other programs to give aid out, and it's just, to me, God, it's annoying that we're sitting on all this federal money, but we just can't seem to get out of our own way and giving it away to our people. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's so many things they could do with this CARES Act funding, because we've all seen the guidance. Mm-hmm. They could do, food assistance, mass feedings, obviously cash assistance, which we're doing some of. But you're right, with this bill, is it really necessary? And we're going to ask Senator Amanda Shelton that. You're right. What's to stop the governor from doing it yesterday? Should they have done it yesterday? Should they have done it last week? What have they been doing? I don't know. We haven't had a press conference. But clearly...
And in the meantime, you've got people still waiting in line.
Yeah. And you know, we're going to go through this whole dance of the legislature and passing this bill that everyone wants to, you know, throw their 2 cents into. Meanwhile, you know, people are lining up for food assistance. People are waiting for their Programa Nandun Salapi checks. People are waiting for their stimulus checks. People are still hurting out here. So I think if we have this CARES Act funding, which obviously we do, we should be trying to give it out in the quickest way possible. And I just don't understand when we came up with these programs for the small business, when we came up with these programs for the people who earn under $10,000. What was the meeting like? No one thought, oh, we should do some more aid for other people and let's go ahead and stand it up now. It just seems like everything is so last minute with these guys. It's like, oh, let's give away money now. How are we going to do it? I don't know. Let's do a bill. And then I think it's also interesting when you have certain bills where, you know, certain senators want to get information, they got to subpoena people to show up at the legislature. But, you know, if it's something that the admin is supporting all the way through, I mean, we saw the testimony. They don't even care how much money they spend. Lester Carlson was like, oh, you know, 8 million, 6 million, 10 million, 12 million, 20 million, 50 billion. Whatever it takes, we're committed. You know what I mean? They were just like, yeah, green light all the way. So I thought that was interesting, and I don't know. I guess the thinking is that if it's federal funds, who cares, right? There's no accountability.
There's a lot of side chatting going on right now in our chat room, and so jump in, everybody. If you're a passive viewer and you're just like enjoying the show, and we hope that you are, you're listening to Chris and Sabrina, you know, like break down the issues of the day. There is a lot of really cool side conversations going on right now, including one that people were saying, you know, I'm still waiting for my second stimulus check, which had a whole bunch of people jump in and say, check number 2, I didn't even get check number 1 yet. So there's an entirely different world going on in our chat room and everything. I mean, we're all talking about the same thing, obviously, but, you know, we've got co-hosts, essentially,
right,
that are leading that conversation.
That's what this show is about. It's about connecting and linking up our community with what's happening.
There you go. Hey, let's go to the phones. We have the Vice President of the Mayor's Council of Guam, the Mayor of St. Aña, and he's also on the GVB board. I just want to get all your hats out there.
There you go.
Mayor Robert Hoffman, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I don't know if you caught any of that
yes,
session.
I did. Yeah. You know, that's the...
I was just trying to get through that whole discussion we just had without saying the word catfight.
Well, you just did.
Oh, sorry.
There you go. I know it's yeah, it's when you read and you hear and you see it, and it's just right before your eyes. It is frustrating, and it's, you know, from our part, boots on the ground, we're getting the calls. You know, we opened up the help center, and they're asking us the same questions. So we filled out what we needed to, we did what we needed to. Where can we go, and what can we, where can we find out more? And I think that was the difficult part. For the Salapi program, we found out that people were missing some documents here and there, and I think some of the frustrations is that, it wasn't requested in the beginning. It wasn't on the list of required things, and so, they had to go back and call people, and, there has to be easier ways to do things, and I think that's where everybody's just scratching their heads and looking at each other like, how did the colleges were able to assist the students immediately when they got the COVID funding? I mean, within a matter of days, they were able to get it out to the students, and some of the students were even expecting it. They're like, "Wow, I got money from the university." I'm like, interesting. But for the government itself, I'm not sure where
we have so many bright minds down there at Adelup. I don't understand. If you're right, if UOG can give out the money, I mean, it was like wham bam, thank you, boom.
Yeah. So it's it's puzzling for all of us here too, and so we put in our requests, and we're the mayor's put in their request weeks ago, and we're still trying to figure out, okay, so how does this work, and when are we going to get it? And if that's the thing, is that we put in the request for PPEs, we put in the request for cleaning supplies and all the other stuff there. So I'm like, wow, we're 80 days into this, and when are they going to give it to us when everything's over? You know, sometimes it's going to be like the typhoons. Sometimes that, you know, by the time FEMA lands, everything, we're kind of almost back to normal.
You're
Like,
boarding up the windows when the house blew down already.
yeah, FEMA comes in and says, here's your, you know, your mops and your buckets. I'm like, it stopped raining, you know, 5 weeks ago. Thank you, FEMA.
What are you hearing about the program in Silupi? Because we're hearing
Tomorrow's the deadline to apply, by the way.
Right. We're hearing that people are having a hard time. They're not getting the checks, but then the word from Gov Guam is that they paid out $13 million.
I know a lot of residents who did receive it. But those people were already on the program itself. The ones who were not on any program and did apply, I know there were several mistakes. We were contacted by several of the people who work at that section who were processing it, saying, you know, mayors, we got the request, you know, we got the applications you sent, you know, but we're looking for, you know, we were missing some of these documents. And I said, that's the difficult part. I said, we were processing them, but when it came to getting some of the documents, places were closed still. I said, some of those documents that you're asking for, they couldn't get, and they don't have, you know, things about their employment, things about, you know, copies of IDs specifically, you know, sometimes some of them had no IDs because they were either stolen or mugged. And so when we helped some of the homeless people, that was some of the issues there too. And so that's where we were like, okay, how did you want us to do this 4 weeks ago or 3 weeks, 5 weeks ago when things were still closed? You know, how were we expecting us to? So I'm glad at least they're combing through it and they're making the calls and they're asking people to, you know, come up and fix that. But I think that's also, like, on the other end for the end user, there's also some frustration. Sometimes people don't answer phone numbers they're not familiar with. And so I think if they tell people, we'll be calling you and this is the number that we'll be calling you, they will, because I always see that all the time. Does anybody know anybody that know this number? You know,
especially now, who's calling? All the banks are calling, the bill collectors are calling. A lot of people are just like, don't answer it.
Yeah, don't answer. You tell your kids don't answer any strange phone number that you don't know. And so that could be also one of the things that is happening is that, you know, on the end user side is that they're not receiving the calls, or they'll call back later when that line's super busy. So it's a missed opportunity. So it is difficult, and I wish there were more phone numbers that people can call to follow up on things, and then, you know, just a simple, you know, where's my stimulus check? Oh, you know, it was issued, or it's waiting, or it's pending, or we have an issue with this, or it was taken by child support or stuff like that.
Right. Or, we mailed it out and it's in Richmond, California.
There you go. And that's very true, very, very true. And I think that's the thing, is that I think, and I've seen tons of people where these checks were misplaced in different boxes, you know, wrong mailboxes. And so, you know, then you have people that have home delivery. So, you know, the letters that are coming after the people are receiving stimulus checks, it kind of validates, like, hey, you should have gotten one, and this is what the amount you got. So it's kind of a check and balance on there, but it should be some kind of help number instead of a 311, or, you know, people are saying, oh, you got to call DOA to follow up on this check. You got to call Rev and Tax to follow up on this check. And, you know.
It's hard also, Mayor, because, DOA, for example, a lot of their staff and staff around different line agencies have been detailed to assist with the POO and the FPUC.
Yes, and that's what we're running into too. And so as the government tries to get back to normal, even just for our regular operations for the Mayor's Council, it's, you know, is this division fully manned? And the answers are no. And they're assigned here and there. So I'm like, okay, so how do we kind of go back to normal? Because we need this, we need the manpower support in those agencies to kind of do what we need to do. So clear example was the EPA stuff that we're trying to get done, you know, and the stuff the mayors are trying to get done in terms of purchase orders and accounting and paying some of the closeouts. So we're kind of caught between a rock and a hard place, and I think in most areas for it, but we're still doing what we can.
Hey, were you able to get any update on the homeless?
I know that they met yesterday, and I know they're going to be meeting again today. There is money there.
Who's they, Mayor? Sorry.
Gura, the Lieutenant Governor's office, and a few other people that are trying to figure this out on their end. I know that GSA is involved in the process. I think it's finding local. I think one of the requirements, I think Guam has to run it, and not. I think not an agency. Not a nonprofit or something like that. I think that's the harder part to do. And so it's trying to figure out, okay, how do we shore up something that kind of doesn't exist right now, and the longevity of it. You know, $2.6 million is a lot of money, and so it's finding the right ways to kind of. I was like, wow, 2.6 can buy a lot of apartment buildings, or you know, figure this out. But you know,
wait,
I
so
think
what?
loans are my.
So the budget is 2.6 million for this?
I believe that was what was allotted somewhere. I remember.
Oh, I
reading
thought it was like
somewhere.
250,000.
Yeah, so no, I think that was for the one previously, but I think now.
So now we're going to be paying more.
So I think somewhere, I don't quote me on the number, but I know that there is money. I think that's what they're looking for, is how do we do this for the number of people we have, and because there are going to be more homeless cases, I think, coming into this, and poverty prevention is going to be a big thing, because once all these no evictions get released and everything else like that, we're really going to see where we're going to be at as an island, because you know that's the scary part for everybody else. Is, you know, the relief right now is they can't be told to leave, but once that goes, you know, where do they go? Do we have enough public housing? And I'd like to see that priorities be given to people that, you know, you have rankings, but you know, you do have homeless, you have people that need, you have families and stuff like that, and so. There's going to be, I hope there's going to be some ways where we can really kind of get as many people into this system, and versus it being a lottery system, versus it being a, you know, okay, we're going to fill up the first 100 applicants, and while you're not being evicted yet, you know, next down the line, you're going to have a family of 5 or 6 that need someplace to go. So there's a lot of discussion that has to happen about this. So, but we're seeing a lot more homeless everywhere, and, you know, the VSOs, GPD, we have people writing letters and lawyers writing letters and here and there saying, you know, it's becoming a problem, and you know, we don't want to say they're a nuisance, because they're not nuisance. They're human beings who try to just deserve every ounce of dignity and respect that we can give them, and our brethren. So it's how do we address this, and what's the underlying issues that are also compounding them to say, okay, this is why they're homeless. So
I gotta say, that's all we've been hearing, though. It's just a bunch of talk.
Yeah.
We've had this CARES Act funding since what, April 17th, April 18th, April 22nd. They got the guidance on what you can do with this money, what you can't do with this, can do and can't do with this money. And we have a bill on session floor. You may use this CARES Act funding, but Senator Theresa Lai said we could be doing this right now. We could have done it yesterday, 2 months ago, and we're still even talking about homeless.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is that
what the hell is going on?
When we see the homeless, and when we talk to them, and when we bring food to them and stuff like that, they're asking, you know, any word on the shelter here and there, and you know, I'm speechless on it. And you know, they appreciate that what we do when we go out and give them as mayors, but they follow up with us too, and you know, they're like, you know, have you heard anything? I'm like, you know, once I do, I'm going to make sure we. You know, you're the group in my park, or you're the group in my beach, or you're the group in this area that I'm going to go inform and say, hey, you know, because they don't subscribe to anything, and they don't have the regular JIC reports and stuff like that. So they heard about it, and you know, by word of mouth, and then they heard it was, you know, not recommended because of CDC or for whatever else recommendations that came through and said, oh no, this is not a good idea. So. Where's the good idea? How are they doing it? How are they doing it in other countries or other?
Where's
areas?
the good idea? That's a $1 million question, Mayor.
Yeah, and you know, I don't know. Maybe it's like the ARA money that Obama did after America got broken, and you know, it took almost 2 years to do, but you know, it shored up our economy. But I think in some jurisdictions they were able to do it really quick, and boots on the ground projects, shovel-ready projects, and have this done. And here we are. We're like, okay, here's the money, it's in the bank, and how do we do this? And I know we want to do it right. That's clearly understandable. But as we see the numbers grow, 15,000 people applying for unemployment, and you know, at least we could have shored this up and got some of that basic information already months ago. Because
or I'm thinking, I mean, we're you know, we're giving money to people who earn under 10,000. We advance that. We got this program in Salapi for people who are already on, for the most part, on federal assistance. We're giving money, or we're trying to give money now to families, but you know, when you see it in the comments all the time, where's the help for those people who have been displaced or lost their jobs? I mean, it would be so easy to say, hey, you lost your job, you lost money, come get $200 or, come get $300 or, whatever.
Yeah, and I think every little bit helps, and that's what I think surprises us is that when we're issuing out even just the food commodities and the fruits and the waters here and there, these are small things to most people, but to them they'll stay in line for an hour or so, and I'm like,
an hour or so.
Yeah, it's the reality of that is that these families are hurting, and
exactly.
If we were able to pay out war survivors' claims, within pretty, I would say a pretty record speed from getting the.
So basically, it sounds like you're saying the time for excuses is over.
Yeah, I think, yeah.
He's saying it in the Mayor Hoffman way.
I'm saying in the most diplomatic way is,
I'm just saying.
Yeah, she's like, what the hell?
I'm just saying we could do it, and, it's the information that everyone always asks is the basic information that every application has. As long as we have an SS number, we have proof, we have people who are willing to vouch for whichever else like that, sign whatever documents they need. These are, the same information that's needed for the stimulus, that's needed for the FPUC, that's needed for the Salapi program, that's needed for unemployment. It's pretty much the same thing. Yeah, and so, you know what, I don't see how come it's difficult, but maybe it's more technical than this. Maybe the Region 9 partners are saying, oh, no, you got to do it this way. But at least tell us that if the Region 9 is the ones holding it up and saying, we have this, but maybe there's a trust issue with the federal government and the government of Guam. Maybe it's another person down there. But as we get people into the system slowly, I'm sure we can get it out faster instead of this 21-day wait or whichever else.
Man, if we can pay, if we can pay out invoices and quarantine hotels with no contract, why can't we get this done?
Yeah, that's the thing, Mayor. I think is we've shown there is another way, right?
And if it means putting people to work in the nighttime and giving them over, I think people would appreciate getting it faster.
Of course.
And I don't mind saying, okay, Treasury Department and the people cutting the checks, you're going to work till 10 o'clock at night every night until we're done.
Or, hey, we're going to have 24-hour processing. We're doing it in 8 hours. I mean, aren't we like labor human resources people? You guys should be good at managing your manpower.
Yeah, and I think, and even with public health, when we had our testing on Friday, we did great. We had record numbers on it, and our frustration was they didn't get their calls till Monday and Tuesday. And they were told, don't go anywhere till you get the call. But we got the results, Friday and Saturday about being negative. But they were all waiting for that personal call, and so there was that frustration. And then when we finally called, they said, "Oh, there's only 2 people doing the calling, and Mayor, you had 265 people." I said, "Yeah, but they should have listened to what the JIC is." I said, when the JIC said everyone's negative, I said, "Yeah, but they were waiting for you," and so people were calling me saying, "Mayor, am I negative or positive?" I said, I haven't got to my call yet from public health. I'm like, there's 2 people and they didn't work during the weekend. So I'm like, but why would you hold that over? That's going to bother somebody in their head. Yeah. Saying, we're going to test you now, but we don't work on the weekends and we get off at 5. Right. And so then I asked public health, I said, let's do the testing in the afternoon, late afternoon, evening, or the weekend when people who are at work, who never got a chance to get off work, let's see how they test, because they're the ones most exposed, and
because they're out.
And it came back to, they really can only do the testing 9 to 12. I'm like, yeah, but their employers won't let them go, or they don't have leave, or for whatever reason, can we find a way to accommodate them? But I understand logistically, that's a bunch of nurses that are going to end up having to make an extra different amount of money. I'm like, so I said, we're nickel and diming that, but for the other things, you're right. We're like, go ahead, just
gun it.
Clear it. And we
send all the deputy directors
$100 a room for a broken room. Yeah, we do it. Give us 500 rooms.
Yeah, some of it doesn't make sense, and I wish it did. I wish it made sense to me. I wish it made sense to a lot of people, but I think that's where the frustration lies, and our people think, these hotlines close. They're not, it's not really a hotline if you close. Yeah. You're just a phone number.
You're right. I feel like there's this big part of our government that's not emergency anymore. They're just, moseying along. Mayor, we got to run. We got Senator Shelton on, and we definitely want to get her on with all the fun events that happened last night.
Very good. Enjoy. I'll be listening.
Okay,
Stay safe.
Thank you, Mayor. Wash your hands. Okay. All right. So let's get.
By the way, I'll be calling you after the show, Mayor Hoffman, about the email I sent you.
Oh, you sent it. What kind of email? Sounds juicy.
No. It's about liberation.
Oh, okay. Good morning, Senator Amanda Shelton. Of course, Chris and Sabrina here. Thanks for calling in.
Good morning. Good morning, Chris and Sabrina. How are you today?
Oh, we're fine. How are you?
Doing well. We had a late night, but I'm glad that we got to move Bill 367 to the voting file last night. So a very productive evening.
Right.
I guess, first of all, if you could, we'll just give you the floor. Who is eligible for this aid, and how much aid are we talking about, Senator?
Thanks. So the Bill 367 will establish the Azuda Imangafa Help for Families program. So this will be a direct stimulus of $500 to families who have dependents who were left out of the CARES Act. So many families out there may have noticed or had been expecting that they would be getting $500 for all of their dependents. But the CARES Act only covered for dependents up until the age of 16. So if you had a high school student who's over the age of 16 or a young adult who's in college who you still cover as a dependent, or an individual with disability who's your relative and a dependent, maybe your adult child who you still claim who has a disability, this $500 stimulus will be for them and go directly to the head of household.
And I know that there were several funding sources for this bill.
Yes. So originally I introduced with the funding sources being 2020 General Fund, 2020 Special Fund, the Rainy Day Fund, and the War Claims Fund. And so those funding sources were introduced, and we did have support from the administration saying that if we allowed for the governor to have this transfer authority, that they believed there was enough funds in those accounts to allow us to transfer them into this program. And so fortunately, during the Committee of the Whole yesterday evening, we learned that we would be able to use the CARES Act funding. So I think that's good news for everyone, that we're going to be able to readjust the CARES Act funding and get this direct payment to our families. And I think that's what everyone is really out there. You were just discussing how much people are hurting, and they're really wanting for a little more help right now. And so this is a way we can get that money directly to them.
Mm-hmm. So those 4 local funding sources, BBMR and the Department of Administration said there was actual money.
Yeah, so the note that I got from BBMR yesterday was just, it didn't specify which.
Because $3 million, right? $3 million in the Rainy Day Fund?
That's what was shared on the floor
right.
yesterday.
So what about the War Claims Fund? How much is there? Or have they spent that?
They did share with us yesterday that the War Claims Fund was used, I believe, for
tax refunds.
Tax refunds. Yeah, so I can't recall the exact amount that they talked about on the floor, but that information was shared yesterday.
Okay, and the War Claims Fund, was that supposed to be approved legislatively before it was used?
Well, I believe there was a provision in our original War Claims legislation, and so I'm not really sure what happened with that whole situation.
Mm-hmm. So you were told, though, by the administration that the money in the War Claims Fund was used, despite the fact that there may or may not be, because you can't recall, whether or not...
I can't recall what the number was, but yes, we were told that we received the War Claims reimbursement, not the full amount, and that some of it was used for tax refund.
I think it was, I want to say 12 million maybe, or something like that.
Okay. Yeah, I can't recall the exact amount, so you may be right, Chris.
Okay, so for the other 2 local funding sources, was there any money? You said general fund appropriations?
Yes, so that was shared with us, that there was funds available, but that we wouldn't have to tap into those funds because of the CARES Act funding would be able to be used for this program. And so we added language into the bill last night that would make it so that the CARES Act funding became another option, and that we would use all of the federal CARES Act money possible before we ever touch any local funding for this program. So I know a lot of my colleagues last night had that concern, and so did I, because as we learned that the CARES Act was available, of course we want to use any federal funds before dipping into our local funds, and so we added that amendment in. That was a great compromise with many of my colleagues. So I'm thankful to them for working together and helping to find a solution that would protect our local funds and get this program out to the people.
Did the administration go on the record yesterday, BBMR and DOA, on the record say we are going to use CARES Act funding for this program?
Yes, they did assure us that they would use CARES Act funding.
Okay, because they assured the legislature that they were going to use CARES Act funding, and the fact that we don't need, I guess the legislature can't appropriate federal funds, why do we need this bill? Why do we need this bill?
Well, the bill now establishes the program. So, yes, now that we learned that the CARES Act money is available, the governor surely could have stood up the program. But, this is something that we wrote into law, and we are now establishing the program and saying that in the event that there isn't enough CARES Act money, that we do have this some other local funding source option. So that is available in the bill.
Could you have just given this bill to the governor? Or even just the idea, the concept to the governor, and she could have implemented that or implement that today instead of going through this whole process?
The RISE, was that RISE one? The one that Senator Regine had, that RISE bill, and then I think she had introduced it, and then the governor said, no, we're going to do that, and then the bill got withdrawn.
Well, that's definitely an option, and I did work very closely with the Department of Revenue Tax, with BBMR, DOA to get the right language and to do this right, because we were assuming all of this time that we were going to be using local funds, and so that's why we were going in this route. And so I would have been appreciative either way if the governor took this bill on, or this idea on, and ran with it, or allowing us to us going in this route to introduce the legislation and establish the program. To me, at the end of the day, whoever gets it up and running, I'm just as happy.
Yeah, and again, it just highlights the fact that the administration could have done this or could be doing this, and they're not. And here we are. The legislature is debating a bill that she could just do. And people are waiting in line for food, waiting for stimulus checks, and they have been waiting.
I think it was really an oversight of the federal stimulus, right? So many of my constituents brought it to light, and so that is why I put it into the legislation. I introduced the bill, and so it was because I heard a caller on your station as well. I think her name was Abby, a mom who was talking about her not being able to get a stimulus payment for her dependent, and I had many callers from the university, many callers from Guam Community College who were worried about what their parents had to help them. And so this was the route we chose to go to introduce the bill, and I'm glad that it received the support of all of the departments that we needed. And so this is what we're doing moving forward.
Senator, do you think that the criticisms that we're not getting these CARES Act funds out to people who need it quick enough, you think those are valid criticisms?
Of course it is, because the people of Guam are hurting, and I know that everything is moving quite slowly, and I hear all of those frustrations. I really feel for the people who are, calling our office as well, asking for help to fill out the unemployment application, asking for help about how to get assistance, how to sign up for SNAP, and where to go to receive the free food program, where to line up. And so we're hearing those concerns too. And so this is one that I heard loud and clear from so many young people, and this is a program that I could act on and introduce the bill to do so. But yes, I know that there is frustration because of the pace that we are moving at, and I know everyone wants to take all of the precautions necessary and ensure that we're doing this right. And I know we are doing the best we can, and we're just praying and hoping that everything can move along a lot faster, and that everyone will, continue pushing to help the people.
But Senator, you've been getting these calls for concerns. You said all of your colleagues have been getting these calls for concerns. Was nobody taking these concerns to Adelup? I mean, you used to work with the chief of staff.
Oh, well, yes, we do communicate with Adelup. We also have our own oversight hearings. We've had an oversight hearing with the Department of Public Health and Social Services. We've had an oversight hearing with the Department of Labor. And so, we are doing our best on our end as legislators, as policymakers, with this oversight authority to help the people the best way that we can.
So, Senator, if you guys were able to figure out a way for Adelup to stand up this program in the same way they did with the GITA program and also the program Azudan Salapi, if Adelup, and it looks like they could because they have done it with 2 other programs, if they were able to stand this up, would you support that if it meant that you weren't going to get any shine from passing this or getting this bill passed?
Sure. Like I said, Chris, really it's not about the glory for me. It's about just doing right by the people of Guam and getting the money to them as fast as we can. So if there's a way that they can stand it up and follow the program as we've set out as this legislation, I'd be really happy with that, as long as we were doing it the fastest way possible.
Right.
Let's
No,
talk
the
about
fastest way would be just for the governor to do it.
or 2 have done it already, because I
But
feel like
well, the bill still provides for that additional funding option and some other protections in the bill, and reporting requirements to the legislature, so that we can keep a close eye on the CARES Act funding and what we're doing with this program. So I am appreciative for those parts of the bill that call for accountability and transparency. So I think that's an important part that we are legislating here.
Has the administration complied with the transparency bill that was overridden with turning in expenditure reports?
the one that you voted against, right?
Yeah, I did vote against that veto. I can't recall right now from the messages and communications that I've received in my office what exact reports have come in, but I can definitely check into that.
Okay.
What did you make of, Senator, of the fighting that happened yesterday? That was pretty feisty.
Chris, as you know, things get heated on the floor because we all have different ideas and we want to do what's best. And so sometimes the conversation, the discussion, the debate, it gets a little heated, and that's something that that is expected. And I think everyone at the end of the day just wanted to do the best job that we could to help the people, and we came to a consensus. And so I am glad about the outcome, and that at the end of the day, all of our colleagues could come together and do that.
Mm-hmm. Well, I certainly appreciate your efforts, Senator Shelton. I think we can all acknowledge that you are trying your best under these circumstances. So you guys are going back into session on Friday for the State of Judiciary address. When are we going to see these bills actually go up for a vote?
Sure. Thank you for that comment, Sabrina. And yes, I appreciate it, and I know that all of our colleagues are working our hardest to do the best job that we can to help the people. And so we will be going into session tomorrow for the State of the Judiciary tomorrow morning. And so I know that our legislative team, our central team, the clerks need time to engross all of the bills. And so we haven't set a time yet for voting, but I'm sure it'll be sometime this weekend or early next week.
Oh, okay. So you guys might be in session over the weekend.
I can't confirm that, but of course it is always a possibility to vote, as soon as they're able to engross the bill. So they do need time to do that.
All right. Well, thank you, Senator Shelton. I just got to say, it just seems frustrating, or I can feel or see some of your colleagues' frustration that it's even having to get to this point where we have to legislate something like this when it can be just done by
I think that
Adelup.
the point that maybe that they're trying to make is that that day that we discussed this in session was a day that they could have spent standing it up on their own. I mean, yeah. Okay,
I
Senator.
hear that frustration, but I'm glad that we're doing it. And I'd just like to mention too quickly, Bree and Chris, that we moved 2 other bills to the third reading file, which is a funding source for the University of Guam and for GCC, both to help them with technology advancement to help them move into transition into their online learning, and so they're going to be able to expand some of those programs and services. So we are giving about $500,000 to the University of Guam and almost $300,000 to the Guam Community College to help them with those efforts from the Tobacco Trust Fund.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah. So thank you very much, guys.
Thanks. Take care.
Okay, take care.
Okay.
Hey, Senator, next time when you guys are having the altercation down there and, they go into recess and the mics are off, what do you think? You give us a little under the table secret recording? Because I'm not much of a lip reader.
Well, I'm sure you guys you've received those WhatsApps of the lip dubs of people doing the conversations over over our recesses. So I think
taking a note from the malfunction playbook.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So
Okay.
Take care, guys.
Thank you, Senator. Wash your hands. All right.
Yeah,
Okay.
thanks.
Good morning. Well, what'd you think, Bree?
I think I already told everybody what I thought.
I was like, I guess I'm being good cop for this one.
No, I mean, really.
No, yeah, of course.
You could have
We
just
agree. Yeah.
said, Governor, hey, John, we used to work together. Remember Congressman Manuel Medalia's office? I got this great idea.
Right.
Make it happen.
I mean, is there it just seems like we're
$118 million in CARES Act funding.
We're just sitting on this mountain of federal cash. I don't understand. There should be a team. Maybe there is. We don't know because they haven't had a press conference.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, she made it clear that, yes, the administration said we're going to do this with CARES Act funding.
Yeah.
So,
but I feel like there should be a team, just like the CARES Rapid Response Team, and they just look at the guidance and they look at, the other people, because apparently the federal government made a huge boo-boo and left out all these people that now it's on us to remedy them.
Mm-hmm. I really think we should play that soundbite. I mean, if there's even time. But
which one?
The one where they were arguing about it, and it was made clear that CARES Act funding can be used.
Oh, yeah, we're going to play it. And we're getting the minority leader on in just a couple minutes. But I want to switch gears really quick and bring on Clarissa Torres here, who is helping organize this protest against sexual assault and rape. And this is in support of not just alleged victims of San Nicolas, but other victims of sexual assault and rape, and it's happening on Friday. And so, Clarissa, we saw the flyers going around. Good morning, by the way. Chris and Sabrina here. You're on.
Good morning.
Good morning. Mañana, you guys.
We saw the flyers going around, and I just wanted to get somebody on and promote it and get the word out there because it's tomorrow. So, tell us a little bit about how the idea for this protest and this peaceful action came up, Clarissa.
All right. Well, there are three main reasons why I helped put this protest together. The first reason is to protest against the judicial system and its decision to let a sexual predator off in leniency when there are still women who are wanting to come out. This decision can be discouraging. It can be upsetting and potentially re-traumatizing for a survivor of sexual assault, especially one that might have to be related to this case. The second reason is because as a woman of Guam, we already have to deal with the harder parts of our culture that are highly concerned with family relations, reputation, and rather than protecting and supporting our survivors of sexual assault and encouraging them to speak up and speak their truths, a lot of us can feel like we shouldn't do it because a family tie might be tainted after that. And the third reason is to stand with survivors of sexual assault from this case and from any other case, to show them and to broadcast to them that they are not alone. there are other survivors and other people who want to help them throughout their healing journey and their healing process. No one ever wants to be sexually assaulted, but there is a community of people, including myself, that believe in you and your strength, to broadcast and to let them know that the wound is a door out, and there may be voices, possibly including your own, that are keeping you from speaking your truth. But when you're ready to, we will be here to stand and support you on your journey. Mm-hmm. And that is why.
Clarissa, I want to share this post here because you had talked about our culture of silence, right? Which for a lot of reasons, it's not always about protecting, alleged perpetrators. Sometimes it's just because we live in this small island and we have to manage these relationships that we have with each other. And so that's why we called Zita Pangilinan the Hadza Foundation, because as a healer, a traditional healer, we wanted to get her take on this whole thing with Colt St. Nicholas. And so I thought it was very important for healers to come out and say something about this. And there are still some activist groups that haven't said a thing. And I'm really concerned about that and frustrated. So I did want to recognize Pratay Letegzin did a post. I think they shared some of your flyers, and they posted, "Crimes against women hurt all of us. Our hearts and prayers are with the survivors, their families, and our traditional healing community. We pray for justice and healing for everyone who's affected by these heinous offenses, including the family of the reported perp, Colt St. Nicholas. Traditional healing is a significant part of our lives and culture in the Marianas. We do not condone the abuse of this sacred knowledge, and we will work to find ways to better care for each other and protect our community." What did you make of that show of solidarity coming out from Pratay Letegzin, because they're normally dealing with military buildup related issues?
I definitely appreciate it. I know that in some way or another, we're all connected, to cult, whether it's through healing or whether it's through Safi or, just advice on that stuff. So I definitely appreciate it. And I appreciate it, and I understand. So,
what kind of discussions are you having with people in putting out these flyers and organizing this protest? What's the feedback that you're getting?
I'm getting a lot of support, more than I anticipated, to be honest. But it's good feedback. The thing that I'm always bringing to the table with it is, just to be supportive of the survivors, because learning about this, especially if there is a case involved with Colt, it really can bring up a lot of disturbing emotions, like fear, like confusion. And, they need the support in this time, especially if they were wanting to come out and then they find out that, their possible perpetrator is out, and it's kind of it is discouraging, because then, if you're gathering your strength to come out and then you find this out, it might be like, oh, I shouldn't speak up because he's still out there.
Clarissa, is this, you said you organized this, but have you partnered with any other organizations for this peaceful protest, like Vero or, Monique Baza? She's also a survivor of sexual assault.
I have not, but I did. I was mentioned Monique Baza's name, but I have not been able to connect with her yet. I did send my flyers to someone who works with Varo, and also I've sent them to many other friends who have different connections with those groups. I've also sent it to Island Girl Power. But yeah, it's mainly just going through my community of friends, family, and whoever I do know. Like last night, I did spend some time going to business groups and sending them the flyers. Right. So that's what I've been doing.
Yeah, and that's why I wanted to get you on, Clarissa, so that we do this interview and we pop something on the news and kind of raise awareness, and hopefully, get people to show up for this support. Guam, a very interconnected community. Have you gotten any negative feedback for doing this, Clarissa?
Not yet. I can see and understand why it might come up, but I have to stand with the survivors, and I understand that we are a small island and that we really are interconnected in so many ways because we're such a small island. So I do understand, but at the end of the day, are you going to protect the person who was hurt, or are you going to protect the person who had done the hurt?
Right, and I think that's why, again, I wanted to bring you on. I think it's courageous, and, I also think that when we say we're interconnected as closely as we are with each other, to me that means a lot of people knew that this was going on, and that's what I'm hearing. I'm hearing that, allegedly this was happening for many years, and that allegedly people who are high up in our different communities knew about it. And I think that the same could be said with the priests. People knew that it was happening. No one said anything. We didn't learn from that. And so here we are. And again, I just got to recognize you for the courage. I've spoken with an alleged victim, and what she had told me was that people who may have been victimized by him are scared that he's out. And, he's a police officer. And so... we kept a mayor locked up in jail for allegedly dealing drugs because we were scared of his influence in the community. Mm-hmm. And I just think it's interesting that we have a police officer who obviously knows a lot of people and can influence people, and they just let him out. So yeah, it's frustrating, beyond frustrating. I'm pissed about it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then the reason why I'm doing this too is to help bring awareness, education, and it's really important that people understand or do their best to understand and hear the victim, not just silence them. When a person experiences trauma, it goes deep into the body. It goes into the nervous system. That affects the mental health. That affects the physical health. And so if you don't allow them to release that trauma in whichever ways are best for them, that affects them in their daily life, and then it affects their family, the family that is around them, and potentially the family that they will have. So it's important that we let them speak their truth, we let them heal, and we protect them. And I want to also recommend a couple of books to those who are interested in helping people with their trauma, and especially like therapists or any other healer who has the best interest of a person who is traumatized. And that those two books are In an Unspoken Voice: How the Body Releases Trauma and Restores Goodness, and Trauma Through a Child's Eyes. And they're definitely good reads. They've helped me understand how to work through trauma with myself and possibly with others that I may come into contact with. And yeah, this has to be brought to the light. This has to be educated amongst our people so that we can heal our people. Because if we keep letting this happen, then we're going to have so much broken and hurt people, and that's not what our healing or what our people are about. We're about helping and healing each other, right. Taking care of each other.
Just for some background, Clarissa, so you are a healer, massage therapist?
I am a massage therapist. I want to say that I am a vessel of healing. Healing, it's in whichever ways that it shows up through me. It's a gift given to me. It's not from me directly.
Right. So you got good hands, in other words.
Thank you.
In demand because of her hands.
Thank you.
Clarissa, what would you say to anybody out there who's listening who, may also be an alleged victim of cult? What would your message be to those people out there?
Okay, so only you can bring yourself to the door and to the light. I know that it can be hard. I understand that there are a lot of confusing, afflicting emotions, thoughts, maybe words that are coming into your ears, but the only person who can initially get you out is you. And once you are ready and once you feel that you can, then there are so many people, so much community that want to help you. Myself, Varo, Island Girl Power, just to name a couple. You're not alone. There are so many others like you, and we stand with you and we support you in your process.
Mm-hmm. You know, this healing community, it's a small community, I would think. And so when these allegations came out against Ko, what were people saying? And do you know any of the victims? Did they come to you?
I do know a couple, some personally, some not, just through the Vine or something like this. But the people who are connected to the victims are angry. They're upset, of course, because their loved ones, you know, their loved ones are the ones that are suffering along with them, but their loved ones the most. So there's upset that he was let off with leniency, but there's also like, you know, in order to take care of this in the right way that is best for all people, we have to handle this level-headed. So there is anger, there is upset, but then there is also breathing, calm, and understanding. So I will say that.
Okay, Clarissa, is there anything else that you want to share with our audience gathered here this morning?
If you are not able to physically go to the protest, then we do have a third flyer out that encourages you to have a sign that says either "Enough, Silence is Violence, Guam," or "I stand with survivors of sexual assault," and tag us with #Enough or #Silence is Guam. And I also want to say we need to change the title of victims to survivors. We were victims when this had happened, but we are survivors after, and we can be strong. That's it.
All right.
Thank you, Clarissa.
Thank you, too.
Thank you.
You guys have a great day.
God bless you, and definitely recognize and appreciate your courage in standing with survivors.
Thank you.
Okay. Wash your hands.
I will.
Okay. Bye. Hey, 746.
Real quickly, that peaceful protest against sexual assaults and rape, it is scheduled for June 12th, 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. at the Laddystone Park in Hagåtña. As you heard from Clarissa, it's to support the survivors sexually assaulted by Frank Ko J. Nicholas and all other survivors of sexual assault. You're encouraged to wear your masks, bring your signs, say a prayer, stand in solidarity with survivors of sexual assault. And again, Frank James Nicholas was arrested a couple weeks ago. And again, these are his case is still pending in the Superior Court, so these are our allegations.
All right. Okay, we're going to take a break. We got Minority Leader Senator Tello Taitigui. Always good to get her perspective, as she was kind of in the middle of the Pacific Extreme Guam Congress Hall action that went down yesterday. So excited to get her on. We'll take a break and come back with more of the KUAM News Takeover. Guam's favorite, it is containing COVID.
Keeping you informed, KUAM News brings you Banking 671, brought to you by the Bank of Guam, the People's Bank, and Coast 360 Federal Credit Union. Together, we thrive.
KUAM News COVID-19 Takeover on I-94 FM is presented locally by Ambrose Inc.
GU
Avenue Self-Storage, conveniently located near the Harmon McDonald's. We offer affordable rates, online payments, and auto bill pay for your convenience. Plus gate access daily from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. Call us today at 648-7867 for more information.
With the new challenges we're all facing, First Hawaiian Bank wants to make sure you have access to your financial world. With FHB Online and our mobile app, we hope to make banking the least of your worries. Visit fhb.com/digital.
We hope that you and your loved ones are safe and healthy during the COVID-19 pandemic. It has been a challenging time for all, but now, more than ever, our cancer patients and caregivers need us. Although we are apart, we stand united in the fight against cancer. The American Cancer Society Guam is excited to announce our first virtual Relay for Life. Join us on Saturday, June 27th at 6:30 p.m. on KUAM TV 8, as well as on I-94 FM and streaming on KUAM News digital platforms. Cancer does not stop, and neither can we. On June 27th, let's celebrate together and fight cancer. Visit relayforlife.org/GuamGU to find out how you can participate in the 2020 virtual Relay for Life Guam.
Be healthy. Be informed with ITD.
It's not always easy trying something new. Sometimes you have to help your loved ones along. Nana is so used to her weekly trips to the bank that going online can be a little scary for her. But her grandson knows that banking online is safer and easier. So he's teaching her how to get started using Bank of Guam's online banking videos. Teaching is one way to show our loved ones we care. Keep your family safe at home and show them how to bank online. Find easy-to-use online banking tutorials at bankofguam.com or on our Instagram and Facebook pages. Bank of Guam, member FDIC.
Be healthy. Be informed with ITD.
Ha'afare. When it comes to applying for unemployment benefits as it relates to the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance and Federal Pandemic Unemployment Compensation programs, the first thing you'll need to do is create an account and register on HireGuam.com. Utilizing this button rather than the Not Registered button at the upper right login box will ease the pool registration process as it was built specifically for the pool program. The first page you'll see is the welcome page that explains the pool program and the 10 scenarios of eligibility that caused unemployment. Read through it entirely, and if any pertain to you, click Next. Input your social security number and then re-enter to confirm. Notice at the top of the page, the eligibility section is completed and the registration process begins. In order to complete your registration process, you will be asked to provide the following: a username and password and select a security question, an email address, or if you don't have one, you will be required to create one with the link provided, your residential and mailing address if different, your preferred notification method to receive benefit notices and updates, any prior military or current military service, education, occupation, your preferred payment method, such as direct deposit or paper check. Now, if you opt for direct deposit, you will need to supply your bank account and routing number. And since these benefits are taxable, whether or not you would like your taxes withheld. When you see the page notifying you to proceed to make your PUA claim, you have completed the registration process and may continue to the work history portion of the claims process. Input your last employer data, job title, and employment information. When the system prompts you to enter your last day worked, make sure you enter the date in which your employment status was directly affected by COVID-19. For example, if you were furloughed on April 1st, 2020, but have since returned to work, you will enter April 1st and not yesterday. Complete the rest of your work history information and add as many past employers as needed. Once completed, you will be required to certify that all information is true and correct, that you are responsible to keep informed of program benefits and reading program material, and that you acknowledge that any false statements are punishable by law and could result in a fine, imprisonment, restitution, and a loss of future benefits. Read through PUA's to-do list and take note of the following. Immediately file your weekly claim. Report all income for the week to include
Hey, good morning.
Half a day, everybody.
Island Fever, a little bit of Jason J on containing COVID. Coming up at the 8 o'clock hour, we'll do a dive in the day's COVID-19 headlines, and you're definitely going to want to watch as we are going to replay some of the highlights from the Ultimate Fighting Senators. And you know what Senator Shelton had said about, the debate gets heated or whatever. We talked about that before she came on, and I don't see it. It's not like they're debating policy and you have one person who's saying, we need to pay the families $500, and you have another person who's saying, no, we don't. It's not even about that. It just really seems to be about petty procedural things, about being out of order or point of personal privilege or whatever. I mean, yeah, again, like I said, it's not like they're in there debating ideology. Well, okay. And we'll get the minority leader on. I think she got cut off. Let's get you on. Call now. You know what I mean, Bree? Again, it's just like they're just going at each other in a petty way. It's not like one's on one side and others on the other.
Right. Senator Joseph Augustine, though, he was really trying his hardest to contain or to contain.
And you know how it is when the women in the house start fighting, the men go outside. I was like, no, not involved.
Okay, real quick, we did want to jump in there because there are a lot of you who are watching our shows on your phone while you're in your car. Several people in the comments, Gemar in particular, is saying people are being turned away at Teason for the food distribution today. We want to reiterate that Adelup and DOE were saying that there is another site at Jotnya at St. Francis Church, and they're telling people go to there because at least when we went on the air this morning, they said there were several hundred bags available and little to no line. So if you're having trouble with the Teason site, head on over to Jotnya, and they should be able to take care of you.
Thank you for that, Jay. And now let's go to the phones where we have a minority leader, Senator Tello.
Nope.
Oh, God. Okay, try again, Senator.
Right. And also contact your village mayor. I know that they are distributing boxes as well. So just contact them. And as Jason mentioned, the Teason drop pickup site, they're turning people away, and Jotnya is open. We got that message from the Department of Education spokesperson Isa Baza earlier today that the lines there are minimal. So please, if you need your food, go to the Jotnya church.
Right. Thank you. Now we have Minority Leader Senator Tello Taidagui. Senator, is that you?
Hey, good morning, Chris, and good morning, Sabrina.
Good morning.
Good morning. It was a
Been
long
a
night last night.
Were you hungover or something from the fighting?
But could it have ended earlier when BBMR and DOA said that we're going to use CARES Act funding?
Absolutely. It could have ended. I mean, the one word that it kept resonating in my head yesterday was, this is so frustrating. I was speaking to legal earlier that day, and I said, if just everything would be transparent, the rules of engagement were followed, if they would let us know what bills were going on the session agenda before the session so we can do our due diligence, and if they can just allow us enough time to ask questions, then the frustrating would stop. But most especially the rules of engagement, I'm sorry, but a point of personal privilege. This was brought up before with the speaker allowing
Senator,
individuals to say that.
Right.
And point of personal privilege, the ruling is that if it's directed solely at you, and it wasn't directed at anybody in particular. He felt he was being sabotaged, and she just felt compelled to put her hand to her heart and saying, "Oh my God, it hurt my feelings." I'm like, "Oh, get real."
I almost fractured my eyeballs last night.
We're just for people who are listening. We're talking about Bill 9, right? This is Senator Jim Moylan's bill. So roll back the GRT.
Let's start on Bill 9. That's the one that was a total sabotage. What was ironic was when he placed his bill on the session agenda, it would have been the last one on the agenda. So something was going on, because you can see it when they all huddle. I got to come up with a name of those particular 8 individuals who are, the yes men, the yes soldiers. But they get together and they decide, how it's going to play out without letting not most of us, but a few of us not know. Definitely not the Republicans know, and a couple of Democrats. They don't want to let them know, because God forbid, we want transparency, and everybody know what's moving forward. So I think at that moment they decided, okay, well, let's just set Bill 367 aside, and then I don't know why Mary asked to have her bill set aside. It had nothing to do with any kind of committee of the whole. It could have gone forward. But no, that bill was set aside too, just so that Jim Moylan could put his bill aside, bill up first, which he wasn't even ready for, because we thought his bill was going to be last on the agenda, and he was working on the amendments. Because you all know that this bill was introduced almost 17 months ago.
Yeah, and I thought it was...
a lot of it's changed.
Right,
a lot has changed.
I thought it was interesting, Senator, when the rules chair had said there's no conspiracy. The bill was introduced in January, but I think that, a bill that was introduced in January only hitting the session floor a year and a half later, it kind of maybe looks a little bit like a conspiracy to keep the minority bills, from seeing the light of day. I mean, it is what it is, right? Am I wrong?
Exactly. And,
am I wrong, Senator, or no?
It's absolutely right. And when the volume is turned down, and a lot of times I'm trying to keep, press the record button just so that you can hear what's going on. I have nothing to hide. I've been a person who's so transparent. What you see is what you get. And the only thing that really frustrates me more than anything is that they're not playing fair. They're playing these games in the legislature, which takes up 90% of the time, because half the time we're watching the daggers coming from our, from behind us. And it's useless to have this kind of petty games going on in the legislature. We're supposed to be working together. Instead, you get comments from the back when you're speaking of someone, pouting and huffing like a spoiled little kid. And that's Regine Bisco-Lee. I'm going to say it straight out. I have nothing to hide.
No, I've heard from other senators that
and you get Talina Nelson, who's sitting there clapping like this is a show, and it's not. There's decorum in here after someone speaks, and it just becomes too much like a playground, and it needs to stop. The rules of engagement, every one of them should actually go not to only an ethics committee, but also rules of engagement on the session floor. Read your Mason's manual. But one of the biggest things that happened last week that was so frustrating is moving forward with another bill regarding the rental, the landlords.
Hold on, Senator, real quick. We're KUAM FM at Agotnia, Guam. Again, this is the KUAM News Takeover of Guam's favorite containing COVID. Good morning to our viewers on KUAM TV 11. Good morning, Guam. On the line now, we have one of the, I like to call you one of the grown-up senators for the Guam Congress Hall. Minority.
That's unfortunate. I'm grown up. Yeah, I'd like to be. I really do. But, sometimes I'm only human. It does push your button. You try to clench your mouth and say nothing.
Yeah, but Senator, we played a clip of you, and we're going to play it again when we do the news. But you're right. There was, and you called out Senator Regine Bisco-Lee for kind of mouthing off mic, right, behind you.
Yeah.
And this is something that
a lot.
I've heard, in watching session that is kind of routine for her. Is that? Have you ever had that before, where you just get a senator who's just wisecracking or hating or whatever you want to call it?
It's the two of them in the back. It's Regine Bisco-Lee and Talina Nelson. When we're trying to, state our case, debate the issue, and they're making comments back there. It's just very childish. You know,
So they're like those
allow
two.
people
Are they like the two senator? Are they like the people in the back of the bus? You know that when I used to ride the bus, there are people in the back. They're always the ones who are like teasing everyone and bullying people. So that's Senator Regina and Vice Speaker Talina. You're saying those are the two.
I have this one constituent that keeps texting me saying the Mean Girls. It's the Mean Girls. And I got to find that movie and watch that because it's just to see if it's true to form because they're called the Mean Girls.
And I got to disagree with what Senator Shelton said because I don't think the debate is not heated because some of you guys are on one side and some are the others. The debate is heated because they're cutting you guys off. They're misusing the rules. I mean, are there even rules or is it jungle rules? Because it looks like the rules of the legislature are jungle rules.
Well, at the beginning of the legislature in this 35th Guam legislature, I had mentioned a couple of times, no, this is not going to happen while I'm sitting here. If someone is speaking, let that person talk. Quit coming in with a point of information when your point of information is actually you're debating. You're not giving a point of information. You're giving your opinion. And then point of personal privilege. This kept happening at the beginning of the year. So, you're thinking, okay, do you just let this continue to go on or give them their own medicine? So the only thing to do to fight back is give them their own medicine. This is what it's like when you're being interrupted, when you're trying to say something. This is what it's like when you're abusing your right as a senator on the floor, when to speak and when not to speak. You're abusing it. So it's like I said, these guys need to go to school and learn the rules of engagement.
Senator,
and where it's respectful of each other, and nobody seems to be. But there was a lot of bills on here. The sabotage bill that we're calling Jim Moylan's bill.
What do you make of that though? Because it's a valid point. I think that if you had a bill that was just Senator Moylan just not expecting it, because I would think that if I had a bill that the Democrats were trying to keep from hitting the session floor, that in the event it was, I would make sure that all my ducks were in a row and my amendments were there and the effective dates were changed, because I don't want to let Senator Moylan completely off the hook because he's been asking to lower the BPT ever since. And so you would think that when you finally get the shot, whether you're going to go at whether you're going to go, Senator, at 5 o'clock in the afternoon or 10 in the morning, I think when they finally call you up, that you just got to be ready.
You're ready to go.
Yeah, and that's the fault of Senator Moylan. He's always complaining about his bills not seeing the light of day, and then they finally let one out, and he's just not ready.
He's not ready because there's a lot of changes that need to be done. Then if you're looking at trying to utilize your time wisely, you figure 367 is going to have a long debate because that's an appropriation bill going into the committee of the whole, and then you have another bill coming forward. You have a little bit of time. It's been awarded. Time has been awarded countless times during session to allow these senators to put amendments in. And
point of personal privilege, Senator. Point of personal privilege.
And you said people frustrated because we keep taking recesses because they're allowing other senators to take their time putting their amendments through.
Right.
So when the senator asked for a little bit more time, so all he asked for was just what they did. They asked to set their bill aside to be the last on the agenda, Bill 367.
Right.
Then the next one asked to set their bill aside, to the end of the agenda. So that's what Jim Moylan did. Well, he asked to set his bill aside to the end of the agenda, so making it back to Bill 367. But they wouldn't allow him to do it. Oh, no, Senator Moylan, you got to do yours now. No, there's a motion to set it to be last or set it aside, and an objection. And never in the years that I've been in the legislature or had oversaw the legislature in the governor's office did I ever see an objection when a senator wanted to set his bill aside. I've never seen that. And I talked to legal. I go, did you ever hear anything like? She said never in her history has she ever heard that as well. So it really was a setup. It was a sabotage for him not to have his amendments ready to go and give enough time for him to put put it out there. It was total to sabotage.
Right. Well, Senator,
So that-
point of personal privilege. I think you're right, because we look at Bill 367. I mean, this is a bill that hit the floor and it was using all local funding.
This was
And no one said, oh, let's withdraw it and let me change everything up to put the CARES Act. I mean, this was something that you guys discussed and it totally evolved. I mean, the funding source totally evolved, but no one said, oh, you don't have time to do amendments or, you know.
I have to say, this is one of the most fishiest legislations placed out there when you have BBMR coming up there saying that, oh, this bill was just introduced, conveniently answering the question of, I just heard about this bill, but not really saying I just heard about it. He craftedly said the bill was just introduced this morning, and it doesn't, come on, you guys, this was a setup totally for Senator Shelton to have her day in the sun. You know, we all know that the governor can do this, and in fact, it's important, and it needs to be done now, so the governor can do this now. And then for her, it was just so frustrating.
Yeah, you're right, because the governor could do it now, and they should have done it, and it's a huge win. Like, Adelup would look so good. Everyone is now, all everyone is saying is we're sitting on, you know, what is it, Bree, like $80-90 million in federal CARES Act funds. We're just sitting on it.
Exactly.
We're sitting on it. It's just collecting interest or whatever. And this would have been a huge win for Adelup. They could have had a press conference about it.
They could have. And for Lester Carlson to mention, when we talked about, I had a copy actually of the budget of the $117 million of CARES Act funding and the budget in front of me. And Senator Trishula, asked the question before I could, but where are you going to take this money from the CARES Act? Oh, and his response was there are certain budgeted areas that need to be spent right away that probably will not be spent before the December 2020 deadline. And we can use money from this area and move money around this, you know. So I thought, okay, well then just do it. You know, why? And it was mentioned several times that you have the opportunity, the administration has the opportunity to do it now and not wait for this legislation. As far as like putting together a rules and regs and how to do this, well, they did that with the SALAPI program. They did that with the other small business programs. They put those rules and regs together and the applications that are needed for people to fill out.
So you think
to do that?
Point of personal privilege, Senator. Point of personal privilege. You think that?
Point of information. Point of information, Chris.
You're out of order. No, so you're basically saying that because Senator Shelton was the only senator to vote against the Bill 333 transparency override, and that in exchange for that, she's now become the governor's querida, and they're going to do this whole program, and then she's going to be passing out the checks when it goes in law. So you're just basically saying this was the trade-off that she got for being the only senator in the Guam legislature who didn't vote for that transparency override.
What's the trade-off?
1 is 2. 1 plus 1 is 2. Do the math. I mean, look at all the scenarios that are surrounding this. Right. You know, I think the people out there, they have their opinion. They're listening to what goes out there, and I'm so happy you guys are putting it out there as well. And finding people are listening to the legislature. They're going on the legislative channel, listening to what's going on in the legislature, and they're putting 2 and 2 together, or 1 plus 1, or they're putting it together and making their own assessment. As far as I'm concerned, all I know is that this bill could have been done, should not even been in the legislature, should have been done, 3 weeks ago. And for them to say that, oh, it's something we just thought about now, that's not true.
I mean, that just kind of reinforces the perception that they're flying by the seat of their pants. It's like, what are we going to do today? Let's do something with the teenagers. Exactly. Are there a lot of teenagers Okay, let's
I
do.
have to admit, though, I have to admit, public hearing, we have a hard time getting BBMR coming to a public hearing.
Right, I made this point.
Sometimes DOA. So I was really happy. First I was saying, hey, have a public hearing like you did on the double pay bills. You quickly, I asked Joe, you quickly had those public hearings. Have one on Bill 637 so we can really go out and talk about this bill and find out where did it come from and is there enough money and funding to go. But actually I was quite taken that, the Committee of the Whole was a much better route because a lot of things were exposed on the finances out there that we've been trying to get answers for.
Right, yeah.
And one of them is the big war claim scenario that we found out last night. And the other one that nobody's really looking at is the rainy day fund. Now, I remember, and I even went to Therese after this, said, hey, do you remember when Director Burns was here not too long ago? This was before the COVID, I think somewhere in January when we had him. And he mentioned to us that there was no money in the rainy day fund at all. And that moving forward, there hasn't been any opportunity to fund the rainy day fund, especially when COVID started, and they were definitely not able to set money aside knowing the crisis ahead of them. So how did they have all of a sudden $3 million in the rainy day fund? So Teresa and I were just looking at each other. Well, that's one. And two, how are you able to take $8.4 million out of the war claims to pay tax refunds when it's definitely an account that needs authority by the legislature in order to appropriate?
I think that's the problem when you have a Democratic supermajority and you got 6 or 7 senators who, when Adelup says jump, they jump. They don't care if they hit their head on the ceiling. They're just going to jump.
Yeah,
so there's no accountability. The legislature, with the exception of a handful of senators, I believe, is totally compromised and controlled by the executive branch. It's frustrating, and really, though, I mean, you guys are the ones that are going to have to face the music come election time because people are going to be voting with a vengeance.
Yeah, and it's sad. There are going to be innocent people that are going to be affected from this because you're guilty by association, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. But one thing I did want to bring up is that Senator Luis Muñoz made such a great statement after my amendment to Bill 367 didn't pass, which was striking out all the general fund appropriation, the special fund, striking out the rainy day fund, and as well as the war claims, because it's obvious they said there was no money in the general fund, there's no money in the special fund. They had $3 million, they said, in the rainy day fund, and they're already spending the war claims money. So what funding is there? What funding is there to fund this bill? Oh, we're going to use CARES Act. So I made sure to scratch out all those other A, B, C, and D, and then incorporate into my legislation that CARES Act funding shall be used for this bill 367. But oh no, we had a huge debate on a 1978 opinion on using federal funds. This is CARES Act. Now I was hoping the speaker would come back with something straight from the White House saying no. CARES Act has to be utilized by the governor, and the legislature has no authority to appropriate any of that money. So when my amendment failed using CARES Act and the argument to put that in my amendment, they turned around and put Amanda's amendment and still incorporated the CARES Act. That's when Senator Luis said, well, why is it not okay for Senator Tillery's amendment, the previous amendment, having CARES Act in it, and now it's okay for Senator Shelton to have the CARES Act amendment?
That's what I mean. It's just so petty. It's like because a Republican did the amendment, they voted down, but then when the Democrat does it,
no, but at the end of the day, we don't even need the bill.
Yeah, that's what's funny is this like Senator Terlai said, it's a charade. Really, Adelup, like, what are you guys thinking down there? You need to give out this money 2 weeks ago. What are you doing? What are you guys doing?
Exactly, Sabrina. There should be even more. There should be
assistance, Senator. Let me get some free ideas. You got your pen and paper?
I got it.
There needs to be assistance for private sector employees who lost their jobs or were furloughed. We need to give them $200-300 each, some kind of immediate assistance while we wait for Dave Della Sola to figure out how to work the DOL computer. We also need to give relief and assistance to people who were not able to pay their rent, people who are now facing evictions. We need assistance, for landlords. There's just a ton of stuff that you can use this CARES Act funding, including
absolutely
helping the homeless. They can use the CARES Act funding to help the homeless. Why don't we give some of these homeless people temporary funds so they can get emergency housing? And I don't understand. I mean, we're just coming out of left field with this Mangafa thing, and we're giving out money that should have been given out a long time ago. And I don't think our people, especially those ones that we're trying to help with this bill, I don't think they have the time to keep waiting for assistance while, we jump through all these legislative hoops so, certain senators can look good in an election year.
I wish I could have had the opportunity to go into the Speaker's office last night and talk to Carlo Branch, who was sitting there in the Speaker's office. I went back there and I'm like, what is Carlo Branch doing here?
Getting comfortable. That's what he's doing.
I'm like, okay, you got the administration. Oh my God, it's true to form.
Yeah, and then
a feel-good bill for a certain senator, and he's been sent down to make sure it happens.
Strong arm the whole
Carlo,
thing.
go tell the governor to make it happen right now. You don't need legislation, and you need to come up with other programs to help utilize that $117 million that's been given to help the people of Guam.
I mean, it's a no-brainer.
On a business perspective too. On a business. By the way, you mentioned something about DOL. And what is Saipan? I heard something about Saipan is already ready and up and running on their unemployment.
Well, their internet's faster up there.
Oh, their internet?
Because they got less people using it. Or...
Less people using it.
No, I don't know. You're right. It does seem like Saipan is kind of...
4,000 individuals who made mistakes on applications. That could have been taken care of right away. Provide these individuals who need assistance and filling it out right. Why did they make this so difficult? They hired a company from off island to put this application together. I just don't understand why they made it so difficult. User friendly, and it's just 4,000. It breaks my heart. Can you imagine spending 45 minutes online trying to fill out this application, and then it's booted out because it was done. There was a mistake made, and half the time, I mean, I'm no computer genius. I know a little bit, but I know it gets difficult online when you're asking certain questions and don't know how to have somebody help you to fill out these applications.
Well, yeah, they are going to have people available to help next week.
Yeah, I think they're going to start applying for PUA on the 17th. But I think Dave had mentioned that he was actually working with Saipan, I think, if I can recall. We've heard a lot from Dave. Yeah, so there's nothing new from Tomas just said there's nothing new from what they reported yesterday.
Senator, we got to run and do the news. We're going to play the clip, so if you want to tune in.
Well, yes, I'll tune in, but one thing I
mean, I know you lived it, Senator, but it's always different when you watch it.
Well, sometimes when you're in a heated moment and you're frustrated and upset, you don't even remember what you said. You're just so angry. But I'm reviewing tape, listening to what BB Maher and DOA said, because there's something that needs to be investigated right now.
Ooh,
But I wanted to also let everyone know that like I said last night, someone who was calling me, just frustrated as I was, and I said, "Don't worry. We're going to continue to fight, even though we're very few in there that are trying to do what's best for the people of Guam and stop all this games in the legislature and just try to move forward." We're going to continue to do that, no matter what. Sometimes you feel like you're such the underdog here, and you're trying so hard. People are worried that you're going to give up, but no, I'm going to keep fighting to the very end. To make sure that everybody has that transparency that we all are looking for, and most especially what's best for the people of Guam and helping the people of Guam. Businesses too, because we need those jobs open again. Yeah. We need to get people to be sustainable.
Point of personal privilege, Senator.
Yes, sir.
Wash your hands.
Will do.
Thanks for the call.
Take care, Sabrina.
All right, you take care.
For all your pushing on this.
Thank
you.
Take care.
It. Bye. Okay. 8:22. Good morning. Let's just get right into the news, Bree. We're going to have Sergeant Paul Tapel of the Guam Police Department on to do our weekly update on crime news at 8:22. Again, the show proudly brought to you by the Bank of Guam, Coast 360, Calvo Enterprises, Ambrose Inc., and IT&E. It is the KUAM News Takeover of Guam's favorite, containing COVID with a dive into the day's COVID-19 headlines and then some. From the KUAM News team, good morning, Sabrina Salas-Matanani.
Hafaday, good morning, everyone. The number of COVID-19 cases on Guam has gone up again. 198 samples were ran through Public Health's lab on Wednesday. 2 turned up positive. This brings the total number of COVID cases on Guam to 182, with 5 deaths, 164 recoveries, and 13 active cases. Free community testing continues today at the Maritzo Senior Center from 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock p.m. You do not have to have symptoms, just bring an ID. That will be the last testing for this week. It restarts next Tuesday, with testing scheduled for the PD Mayor's office from 9 a.m. to 12 o'clock in the afternoon. Again, you do not have to have symptoms to get tested. Just go and bring an ID. Some drama late Wednesday afternoon at the Guam legislature just as senators were gathered in the Committee of the Whole to discuss a bill by Senator Jim Moylan to roll back the gross receipts tax from 5% to 4%. Moylan abruptly withdrew it. He said he was still working on amendments when his bill was pushed up on the agenda and felt it was a move to sabotage the measure before it was ready for debate. This sparked partisan tensions in the hall between Republicans who wanted to table the measure and Democrat Senator Regine Biscoe-Lee, who took exception to the accusation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to the panel. Mr. Chairman, of course, we understand that this Bill 935 was moved up on the agenda after 367 and 162 had successfully moved theirs to the bottom of the list. At this point, Mr. Chairman, I had previously requested to set aside Bill 935 into motion, which failed. Obviously, Mr. Chairman, I do need time to make amendments to this bill, and it's disappointing, and I feel it's unfair that I wasn't allowed that time, as I seen my other colleagues were. So obviously, Mr. Chairman, I feel I'm being sabotaged in this position. It is not fair, and therefore, Mr. Chairman, I withdraw Bill 9-35.
My colleagues, that motion has been made and received. There is no debate on that motion.
It's a withdrawal.
Senator.
It's a withdrawal, sir.
So the withdrawal
has been received.
Has been received.
There's nothing there.
And there's not, okay. Senator Lee, you have a point of personal privilege? You wanted to...
Sujos Masi, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I feel compelled to rise to defend this body against an untrue and unsubstantiated attack on our collective character. Mr. Chair, the notion that the legislature is in a position to debate the lowering of the BPT as a result of, quote, sabotage has no factual information and no factual foundation. Mr. Chair, the author of this measure introduced the bill in January of...
Senator Therese, you're out of order. We're listening to
Mr. Chair, a point of personal privilege.
Point of order, Mr. Chair. The bill has already been withdrawn. Mr. Chair, point of order. The bill has been withdrawn.
I apologize, Mr. Chair. I'm still on my point of personal privilege.
Thank you. Please continue.
Sujos Masi. The author of this measure introduced the bill in January of last year. Mr. Chair, that's January 2019. If the author is not in a position to amend the legislation 17 months later, that's not because of a conspiracy against the bill. The author of Bill 9 is the one who proposed that this measure be added to our agenda today.
Point of information, Mr.
Not
Chair.
on the first day of session.
The author of the bill felt
today.
he was being sabotaged. So point of information.
Senator Tello, you're out of order. She's already been recognized for point of privilege, personal privilege.
She's talking about a bill
Can we just allow...
Mr.
Chairman,
Mr.
point of
no,
order.
This is a point of personal privilege.
I'm going to ask for legal counsel's intervention in interpreting the rules. Come on, we're not going to allow this.
Just a point of personal privilege,
Mr. Chairman, if I may cite the grounds from which you may cite point of personal privilege. In no way was a comment meant to impugn the character or the object of the responsibility or job of any member of this body to include me.
Mr. Chair, I
Mr.
still have
Chairman,
the point of personal privilege.
I'm going to motion to overrule the chair. This is not acceptable. Joe, come on. Let's not grandstand. You want to kill him on
I'm
the media?
sorry, Mr. Chair, I still have the floor.
My
Mr.
colleagues,
Chairman.
we will recess and I'll get with legal
Thank
to
you,
get
Mr.
it cleared.
Chair. Thank
Okay?
you.
Senator Moylan issued a statement that he plans to introduce another bill, which will be a tiered approach and will work collectively with the 2021 budget discussions. Quote, we also need to make sure that the revised measure will prevent the opposition from issuing scare tactics to public sector employees, that such actions result in furloughs, since that is wrong, end quote. The Democratic Party of Guam also issued a statement saying, quote, once again, Senator Moylan has demonstrated that he cares more about talking the talk than walking the walk. After successfully moving to place Bill 9 on the agenda, he withdrew the measure because he was not prepared to defend it. After 17 months of seeking this bill's placement on the agenda, Senator Moylan now claims that he was sabotaged because a majority of his colleagues agreed that this bill should be debated today. Senator Moylan's like the guy who sits on the bench blaming the quarterback but chokes as soon as he's on the field. Meanwhile, more drama late last night as senators also began debate on Senator Amanda Shelton's Bill 367, which establishes the Adzuda Imangafa Help for Families program. The legislation would provide funding assistance or payments to families with young adults, students, and disabled individuals impacted by the COVID crisis. Although the legislation indicated local sources of funding during the Committee of the Whole, the Leon Guerrero Tenorio administration's financial team indicated that CARES Act funding would be used. Senator Tello Taitigui attempted to add an amendment to the bill to incorporate language that CARES Act funding may be used as a funding source and remove the local funding options. However, her amendment failed. The author, Senator Amanda Shelton, then proffered an amendment leaving the local funding portions in the bill, but then also added the same amendment as Taitigui's. We should note the governor has said, and a lawsuit was cited during last night's session, that the legislature cannot appropriate federal funds, which includes the CARES Act funding. Tensions were high on the floor last night because questions were raised that if the administration can use CARES Act funding for the bill, why is the legislation needed?
In the funding source, letter E, any coronavirus aid relief and economic security CARES Act funding available to Imagahagan Guahan. So in addition to the funding sources that were original to the bill, we add the CARES Act funding, which Mr. Carlson shared with us this evening would be the source of funding. So I don't wish to strike out any other option that we originally put into the bill, but to make mention of the CARES Act, which was announced tonight, will be used.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I thought the point was made that we were not allowed as a legislature to tell the governor what to do with this, with the CARES Act, any federal funds. So why are we even entertaining putting an option in there?
Mr. Chair, I'm going to have to object to this because it's not. Excuse me? Excuse me, Mr. Chair, someone's babbling back here. What?
Thank you. My colleagues, let's keep the order. Senator,
crying?
Please complete.
Something? I don't know what, but making a lot of noise. And I have the floor, so out of respect, please, you'll have your time. So, Mr. Chair, we've heard from the administration. We heard that there is no funding available. $10 million. Somebody is going to be short, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, I too am questioning if it was not appropriate to suggest to the governor to use coronavirus aid relief in the last floor amendment. How is it possibly appropriate to put that into this amendment? We're just playing games here tonight, unfortunately. That's what it seems like. We went through this whole thing with BBMR and DOA, and they wouldn't answer the questions thoroughly for the first 4 funding sources. So now we're going to insist that they use the first 4 funding sources that they have insisted they do not want to use anymore. They repeated it maybe 5 times to me. No, Senator, we want to use the CARES Act now. Despite when I told them it's our choice what we're going to use, they said, no, we don't want those to be available anymore, and the only thing available is CARES. And speaking of CARES, they said that of the $20 million, they have $117 million, first of all. They have set aside $20 million for the small business program, and they said there's still money available there. They set aside $20 million for this public assistance payments to individuals. They said they've only spent 13, so there's $7 million right there. And they're offering to use it for this program. When everybody here knows, Mr. Chair, that they could do this program tomorrow, they could have done it 3 months ago. They could do it anytime they want if they're going to use CARES money. They don't need this bill. But, you know, we are trying to go through this charade of we're going to pass a bill, we're going to say it's CARES money that they're going to get to use.
There were several things that have been brought up in this debate. One was a 1978 court case brought up by one of our colleagues. And that was an opinion of one of our colleagues. But also there was another one saying that, almost saying that this bill is not needed. In essence, this bill is worthless. And Mr. Chair, that's a difference of opinion as well, because unfortunately we have said that.
Point of information, Mr. Chair. Point of information. It was not said that it was not
Point
needed.
of order,
It said
Mr.
that
Chair.
It could be.
The Vice
Mr.
Speaker
Chair,
has the
done
floor.
by the
Point of order,
coroner.
Mr. Chair. The Vice Speaker has the floor.
Floor, Mr.
Ladies.
Chair. This just show some respect.
So, just
ladies,
let me
my
finish.
colleagues, the next time I have to gavel down and I'm going to call you out of order, I'm going to have the sergeant arms do what he needs to do.
Concern, it's been mentioned over and over that this isn't needed, that it could be done. But the point is, we've been in this crisis for going on 3 months. We've been looking at the CARES Act money for a while, and it hasn't been done. So we are here to lead and make sure, to the best of our abilities, it does get done. I can probably think of 20 things off the top of my head that could be done with that CARES Act money, and I could question why those 20 things haven't been done. But here we are having an opportunity to say, this is important, we stand for it. And we're going to do our best to make sure it happens because we actually care.
And Mr. Chair, I understand that we had many concerns from our colleagues who do not want to see any of the local funding used, and to be reassured, as was told to us in the Committee of the Whole earlier this evening. So we aren't appropriating any federal funds here, and we are putting an extra measure to ensure that the CARES Act funds are utilized before any local government of Guam funds are to be touched.
So again, CARES Act funding will be used to fund this program. The bill was moved to the voting file. Session resumes Friday, 10 a.m. for the 2020 State of Judiciary Address to be delivered by Supreme Court Chief Justice F. Philip Carbolito. Also from the legislature, they did unanimously confirm Attorney Dana Gutierrez to be the newest Superior Court judge. In national news, just 1 day after laying George Floyd to rest, his brother is testifying before Congress about police brutality. Skylar Henry has more details from Capitol Hill.
Philonise Floyd arrived on Capitol Hill to testify about police brutality. His brother was laid to rest in Houston Tuesday after dying under the knee of a police officer.
The man who took his life, who suffocated him for 8 minutes and 46 seconds, he still called him sir as he begged for his life.
Mr. Floyd said police officers need to learn necessary force.
I'm here to ask you to make it stop. Stop the pain. Stop us from being tired. George called for help and he was ignored. Please listen to the call I'm making to you now.
Democrats say millions of Americans are crying out for change.
We must have real reform and real change. And frankly, anybody who
stands in the way, but it's going to get bowled over.
Republicans say it's time for real solutions to police brutality, but say defunding police is not the answer.
It is pure insanity to defund the police. And the fact that my Democrat colleagues won't speak out against this crazy policy is just that frightening.
George Floyd's death has prompted Congress to put together new laws aimed at reforming police practices. House Democrats unveiled their plans on Monday, while Senate Republicans are still working on their plan. White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows and advisor Jared Kushner held talks with Republican Senator Tim Scott Tuesday about what kind of reforms the Trump administration will accept.
Yeah, we're not going to get into specifics. I think to negotiate it in the press would do a disservice to the senator and his colleagues.
CBS News obtained a draft of Senator Scott's plan. It includes new reporting requirements for deadly use of force incidents by police, increased funding for body cameras, and de-escalation training. Skyler Henry, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
President Trump tweeted praise this morning for Congressman Jim Jordan speaking out against defunding the police. He also says he plans to speak with faith leaders in Dallas, Texas tomorrow to address justice disparities. And I know that we keep talking about this, but the Department of Labor is highly recommending this, as well as the Guam Bankers Association, for you to have direct deposit, because it will make your payment, once PUA actually is paid out in FPUC, for you to get your check transferred to you electronically. And again, if you are going to apply for PUA, go to hireguam.com. That's your Banking 671 report, brought to you by the Bank of Guam and Coast 360.
Can I just ask a question of the two of you, my friends?
Oh, no.
Point of personal privilege.
More, as
Point
it
of
were.
information.
Okay, so you guys have basically, since the pandemic started, you guys have watched almost every second of almost every legislative session, both Zoom and now that we're going back to like in person, right?
Maybe not every second.
Okay, but when stuff gets this contentious and they have like these squabbles and like this silliness and everything like that, what format do you guys like better? When they're in the session hall and they're like only a few feet from each other and they're like, oh, Mr. Chairman, we have, and it goes back and forth, or when they were in Zoom and they were doing that and you could see everybody at the same time?
I watch it on YouTube.
Yeah, but which one is more entertaining to you? When they're all in Zoom and you see everybody like in the one big grid, the gallery view?
Yeah, that was cool for
or when they were switching back and forth?
No, I like it with the full screen of them.
Point of personal privilege.
Personally, I like Zoom because you can see everybody's facial reactions like in real time as it's happening. I just thought that was cool.
Yeah, for that procurement oversight hearing, Zoom was great. Because it kind of, and it reminds me of Brady Bunch.
Yeah.
But it was funny to see the reactions when the policy director, Carlo Branch, kept getting cut off by people he was trying to answer questions for. So I think that was cool because in the session, it's not always on the senators' faces. Right?
Exactly. The camera's cut back and forth, and it's a great shot. It's like nicely lit and it's colorful, but just to be able to see everybody's facial expressions as it's happening. I mean, it's a lot to take in because you got they had about 22 people at its high point in the
They
same
should
time?
get some of Adaloop's editors so they do some cutaways, For example, when Senator Tello said that someone was babbling, we now know that she had said it was Senator Regine Bisco-Lee. But I would have liked to have seen it.
That's
You know what I
true.
mean? Like a little, anytime you babble when your mic's not on, it'll pop you up. You're like, boom. Yeah, okay.
But people should know, if you have watched session these past few weeks or months, this isn't anything new.
Right. It's just more magnified because it's during the COVID.
Right.
Let's go to the phone, 637-0094. Ma'am, are you still there?
Yes, hi.
So let me get this straight. You have applied for the Programan Salapi.
Yes, I have. And one thing I've learned is make sure I have the names and numbers so I can do a follow-up. But I spoke to Angie from...
Ma'am, point of personal privilege. Point of personal privilege, ma'am. I just wanted to say, when did you apply? And can you tell us anything else about the process and how long you've been waiting for your check?
Okay. I applied at May 8th. I believe it's the first week that the governor had announced that she was going to do this program. Since then, it's already June. I spoke to Angie, who is from Suffolk Health. She said a third job is to print out the application, attach it, and send it to DOA. However, I spoke to Mike, who is at DOA, and they said that they have 13, 14 boxes sitting in their office. They need to go through each boxes and enter, put it in their in their computer. However, he hasn't even entered 2,000 application in their computer yet. And he mentioned yesterday when I do my weekly follow-up is that if your application is not completed, they're not entertaining it. They're going to send it straight to Public Health, back to Public Health.
So what's the status of your application, ma'am?
He has maybe 10, 12 boxes before he even reached my application, and I applied the 8th. The first week that the governor announced, I applied on the 8th, and he hasn't even touched my application yet.
Ma'am, are you an existing recipient of the SNAP benefits or any of the programs that would make you automatically eligible for this?
Unfortunately, no, because I do not qualify. Right. So I went through the other way around, and I applied for this program. And unfortunately, it's already June, and he hasn't touched my application yet to be entered. But after they enter it into their computer, it has to go to, then it goes to accounting. That's where they do the cutoff of the checks.
I'm sorry. So you manually applied. You didn't go online.
No, because I had to. No, I did go online. Everything I do it from home.
Yeah.
Because I try to keep away from everybody. So everything from application, I do everything online at home.
Mm-hmm.
And even with that, I had to constantly keep doing follow-up. So one thing I've learned is make sure I have their numbers, I have their names, so I know who to refer back to.
So the boxes are the applications that they printed out that they received. Is that what?
Yes.
Okay.
And so if people are still, if people are still waiting, if they applied for this program and if they're still waiting, and if their application is not completed, their documents are not attached, DOA is not entertaining it, they're sending it back to Public Health. Quote on what Mike said is, this is Public Health program, and they don't know how DOA got involved.
Wow. I'm pretty sure Mike would get in trouble if he, so did he tell you this, just so you know, or was he frustrated as well with the process?
No, he's been, one thing he's been very good, and I kind of give him
props?
Good, good props. I kind of tell him thank you for taking my calls. Thank you for doing what you do. But it's frustrating because if Public Health only make sure the application is attached, the right documents is attached, then send it off, versus sending whatever attached documents that the applicants put in, and it's not completed, then why send it to DOA when it's just going to go back to Public Health?
But you don't even know, right? Because Mike said that he hasn't even touched your application. You don't even know if you have any documents missing?
No. I spoke to Angie, and I make sure that my application and my documents were completed. Because when I listened to you guys earlier, is that they put up a whole set of requirements. Mm-hmm. So I was able to catch that. And I always keep up with what's new and what applications and documents I need.
Wow, you sound like Guam's worst nightmare. Taxpayer who's informed.
I don't know if you. Well, I actually called a while back, so I don't know if you remember me, but yes.
Yeah, I do. Okay, I got you now.
Yeah, so but Mike has been very good with telling me, hey, I haven't touched your application yet, and I'll do a weekly check-in, and this week I was like, hey, did you get to my box yet? He said no. And one thing that I liked from him is, I run my office, I don't do this PARI system, this type of deal, and I said, thank you for ensuring me that. because
What's Mike's last name? Should we say it? Because it sounds like he's cool. I don't want to get him in trouble.
I don't know his last name.
Because I guarantee you they're going to go rip his phone out of the wall after they hear this. Yeah, Mike, guess what? You're not allowed to talk to anybody.
I don't know that. I do know his number, but but he was very professional and letting me know, like, hey, I haven't gotten to your box yet. I'll call you if I do. But he was able to tell me that my application did arrive.
Right. So, when we asked about, because we've heard people complaining about this program in Salapi, and, we asked about it, and the response we get was that, hey, we've already paid out $13 million. And so they don't really address that people's applications are stuck in limbo. They just say, hey, we paid out $13 million and leave it at that.
Yeah.
So what are you hearing anything from any other people who have applied?
No, because like I said, I kind of keep my circle
small
now. So, but someone who is already in the system hasn't received their check yet.
And you just know this is their friend or something?
A family member.
Okay.
My God.
Yes. So, and they, Public Health said that their check has been cut already, but when they kept going to the post office, they're like, there's nothing there. So, I don't know where the 13,000 is going, but it's sure going to millions. I don't even know where it's going because it's sure ain't going to us. There's 14 boxes sitting at DOA and hasn't even been looked at. So if people are waiting for it, it's at DOA, and if your application attached with your documents that is incomplete, the DOA is not even looking at it. They're going to send it straight back to Public Health.
Okay, so all you guys out there listening in Radio Land and Facebook Land and wherever you're catching the show, if you're having a problem, if you've applied for this program in Salapi and you haven't got a check, let us know. Let us know, because again, when we asked the government of Guam, and I know we asked DOA, we just did a story, an update on this, and they had said last night in session that I think they paid out $13 million, and there was a $7 million balance from the 20 that was set aside for this program.
But, and also, what frustrates me too is the unemployment benefits too. If they're planning on sending all the application for DOA to cut checks, DOA is overwhelmed with, on top of the disaster relief aid, they have to do their jobs too.
Right.
And then, and so it's frustrating because here we are struggling, trying to make ends meet. We do have to pay like our power, water by the end of the month, or we'll get disconnected, or we have to, so the bills are coming faster than we can have assistance.
Right. And meanwhile, our government is making a big show out of trying to pass a bill to do something that they don't even need to pass a bill to do.
Yeah, and and it's I hate to say this, but I'm a GCC and UOG. They're faster of helping their students versus the governor. They received the money within weeks. The following week, the students were able to have the money, have the check within their mouth.
So what do you think the holdup is? I mean, geez, we're talking about $80-some million that they just can't figure out how to give it away. I mean, that's crazy.
The one thing I can think off the top of my head is they need a system, meaning if Public Health just only look at the application and says, hey, this application is missing, either contact or destroy, I don't know, but don't send incomplete application to DOA and then having DOA look at this 13 boxes and sorry my language, but 2 boxes are incomplete. We're going to send it back to Public Health. So from the get-go, they need to, work as a team.
I wonder how many applications are in these boxes.
They need to hire you.
Oh my goodness.
But they're probably going to hire a bunch of political parties to go up there and...
According to Mike, he said 14,000 people applied. Don't quote me, but according to what he said, 14,000 people applied. And if, I don't know how many applications are in the boxes, but if you didn't receive, if anyone didn't receive money, you know why. They haven't touched. They're not even close to 2,000 applications of putting it on the computer.
Well, thank you for the call, and I mean, we'll put it out there. I can just totally hear the government of Guam though saying like they don't know what they're talking about. No, what we paid out 13 million, but you know, again, like I said, you sound like their worst nightmare because you know your stuff, and that's what's really great about our people is they do the homework, especially when it involves money they're supposed to get.
Yeah, and you know, I kind of do all my research before I go on the air because I don't want to say the wrong thing. So I kind of do all my research, and like, you know, if things are not being done, I'm like, hey, someone needs to put light on this, and someone needs to look into this, because if you're saying 13 million, obviously people are still struggling. I mean, I applied since the first week of May. I haven't gotten it. Wow. I mean, you know, but yeah, so.
Yeah, that's too long.
Yeah, it is too long. It's what, I mean, and then on top of that, if the unemployment Department of Labor is going to give the DOA cut checks or direct deposit, I'm like, why are we going to get the unemployment for the people that has already applied for the disaster relief and hasn't received it yet?
Yeah, I mean, you know, you got one job, get the people their money. Seems pretty simple, but apparently it's very complicated.
Or even like send people to help DOA. One team for like looking at all these applications, you know, and then I don't know, just there needs to be a system that works with them.
Thank you for that, ma'am. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for allowing me to speak up on behalf of, you know, the people and, you know, and even someone who's experiencing it. It's frustrating. Those are coming faster than we can get assistance. And, you know, it's just a shame.
It is. I mean, this is something that we've all been saying since way back, since a couple months ago. Give the people the assistance they need. Before we got this federal money, they were saying go apply for food stamps, and we were saying, hey, what about people who don't qualify? Early on, it's been the same. We just need to get assistance to our people, and I just don't understand why it's so difficult to give away this federal money.
Yeah, and you know, the one thing that the governor doesn't realize is the food stamp, there's brackets for each family, and one thing I'm thankful of is that the disaster relief funds brackets for the family or for each family household is higher than food stamps. So that's how I was able to apply. And then when I on another note too is when I tried to make a complaint to the governor's office, the clerk was hanged up on me because she was trying to say, you know, you should be thankful that the governor is doing all of this, putting out all the money. And I told her, I said, you know what, I am thankful, but what I'm not thankful is that your governor, your boss, is not putting her ducks in a row, and she's not having it organized where it's easy for the money to go out. And I understand that it's the federal money, and they want to be cautious of how and what way they want to go through and make sure it's done correctly, but you know, there should be a system, like I said.
They hung up on you, girl. They hung up on you.
They hung up on me because they didn't like me, and because I was like telling her, like, you know.
I mean, you should be thankful. You should be thankful to the federal government, not the governor.
Yeah, so that's what she was trying to tell me, and I'm like, you know, this is the governor. You should be listening to the people and not hanging up on me.
Okay, well, we're not going to hang up on you.
Thank you so much.
Oh my goodness. Feel for you.
Thank you, and I appreciate, and you guys are doing awesome.
You are doing awesome as well. You know, I don't like that you have a small circle. I want you to talk to people. I want you to empower them with the information that you have.
Well, you know, I have a small circle at home because, you know, I want to keep away from people.
Yeah.
But I try to extend my circle through, you know, my internet and my computer. My phone.
Well, we
but-
certainly, keep reaching out to us.
Yeah.
Keep us posted. Let us know if you ever get another update from Mike, or if you get your stimulus check.
Or if Mike gets fired or anything.
Well, I did for the one for revenue and tax. I didn't. I had to do a follow-up. Lucky I did a follow-up because my kids were missing their Social Security card, a copy of their Social Security card.
That's an easy one to lose.
I didn't get a notice. It was me that had to do the follow-up, and I'm like, hey, what happened to my check? And they're like, well, your child is missing a copy of their Social Security. I was like, my child's already at about this age, like 4 or 5, and she was like, well, we need a copy in order to get a check. So I had to, of course, have the person that does my tax do it for me.
Mm-hmm.
But so I just wanted to put it out there. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Wash your hands and keep us posted, okay?
I will. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Bye. We're KUAM FM. I got Guam. It is 8:59. Good morning. Coming up on the show, of course, we always end our show with a good note, and so we'll definitely do that. Then we want to bring on our buddy Tom to talk about APEC and disinfecting and cleaning services as we start to see more businesses reopen, and not just businesses that have been open. Obviously, disinfecting and cleaning your area for your employees, or providing that safe and clean and sterile workplace is very important for. Not just the employers to do for their employees, but also for the people who work there. So we'll talk to Tom and see what kind of services they got for you guys out there. And then there was a report that had come out about typhoon season.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, now I got your attention.
No.
Yeah, so we're going to talk with... I'm going to try and bring on Chip Guard, who retired from the Weather Service. But I know that he's doing something... he's still working in the weather field, as I want to say, as a private entity. And then I want to try and get him, and then the Dingat.
Landon.
Landon, right, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The Dingat?
Yeah, well, I had the good fortune of being able to do the Cruising with KUM episode with Chip right after his retirement. And I even asked him, I was like, you've been doing this kind of work for 40 years. You've lived on Guam for, more than 30. I was like, what are you going to do? And he said, back then, that was 4 months ago, he said he had planned to do a little bit of traveling. He wants to read. He said he just wants to get up in the morning, make his wife breakfast, have them watch a movie together, maybe mid-morning, and then, do some gardening and everything like that. But
yeah.
I was like, Chip, if 2 raindrops fall within a 10-minute span of each other and everything like that, you're going to be breaking out the charts and you're going to be like cranking on your slide rule and everything like that. The dude is like a scientist through and through.
I know that I'm going to be like, hey, can we just Zoom with you and just give us an update?
Landon is incredibly knowledgeable too. He actually went to college to do meteorology.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting when if we get him on and just ask him like about his education path and everything like that. But he has actually been very, very active on Facebook too since the pandemic started talking about.
That's actually how I got a hold of him.
You just reach out to him on Facebook. But he's done like a lot of stuff.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Thanks, Jason Salas again. So we'll take a break. It's 9 a.m. again. The KUAM.
Before we go to break, can I just...
Yes.
I just wanted to remind people, I know we were talking about the Programmen Slappied in the Tautau program. The deadline, again, to apply is this Friday, but they're giving people until the end of the month, until June 30th, to actually provide the required documents.
So the deadline is actually June 30th.
No, the deadline to apply is tomorrow, but then they're going to give you the extra few days to turn in these required documents.
Which you're going to need because when your application gets to DOA and it gets put in one of those 12 boxes that's sitting there, you want to have it all together.
Right. Yeah. And let's see, a total of 17,040 checks have been processed and 12.8 million paid out.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Sabrina.
You're welcome.
Again, point of personal privilege. We're going to take a break. and come back with more containing COVID. Good morning.
Banners.
Keeping you informed, KUAM News brings you Banking 671, brought to you by the Bank of Guam, the People's Bank, and Coast 360 Federal Credit Union. Together, we thrive.
KUAM News COVID-19 Takeover on I-94 FM is presented locally by Ambrose Inc.
GU Self-Storage, conveniently located near the Harmon McDonald's. We offer affordable rates, online payments, and auto bill pay for your convenience. Plus gate access daily from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. Call us today at 648-7867 for more information.
With the new challenges we're all facing, First Hawaiian Bank wants to make sure you have access to your financial world. With FHB Online and our mobile app, we hope to make banking the least of your worries. Visit fhb.com/digital.
We hope that you and your loved ones are safe and healthy during the COVID-19 pandemic. It has been a challenging time for all, but now, more than ever, our cancer patients and caregivers need us. Although we are apart, we stand united in the fight against cancer. The American Cancer Society Guam is excited to announce our first virtual Relay for Life. Join us on Saturday, June 27th at 6:30 p.m. on KUAM TV 8, as well as on I-94 FM and streaming on KUAM News digital platforms. Cancer does not stop, and neither can we. On June 27th, let's celebrate together and fight cancer. Visit relayforlife.org/GuamGU to find out how you can participate in the 2020 virtual Relay for Life Guam.
Healthy. Be informed with ITD.
It's not always easy trying something new. Sometimes you have to help your loved ones along. Nana is so used to her weekly trips to the bank that going online can be a little scary for her. But her grandson knows that banking online is safer and easier. So he's teaching her how to get started using Bank of Guam's online banking videos. Teaching is one way to show our loved ones we care. Keep your family safe at home and show them how to bank online. Find easy-to-use online banking tutorials at bankofguam.com or on our Instagram and Facebook pages. Bank of Guam, member FDIC.
Ha'afare. When it comes to applying for unemployment benefits as it relates to the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance and Federal Pandemic Unemployment Compensation programs, the first thing you'll need to do is create an account and register on HireGuam.com. Utilizing this button rather than the Not Registered button at the upper right login box will ease the pool registration process as it was built specifically for the pool program. The first page you'll see is the welcome page that explains the pool program and the 10 scenarios of eligibility that caused unemployment. Read through it entirely, and if any pertain to you, click Next. Input your social security number and then re-enter to confirm. Notice at the top of the page, the eligibility section is completed and the registration process begins. In order to complete your registration process, you will be asked to provide the following: a username and password and select a security question, an email address, or if you don't have one, you will be required to create one with the link provided, your residential and mailing address if different, your preferred notification method to receive benefit notices and updates, any prior military or current military service, education, occupation, your preferred payment method, such as direct deposit or paper check. Now, if you opt for direct deposit, you will need to supply your bank account and routing number. And since these benefits are taxable, whether or not you would like your taxes withheld. When you see the page notifying you to proceed to make your PUA claim, you have completed the registration process and may continue to the work history portion of the claims process. Input your last employer data, job title, and employment information. When the system prompts you to enter your last day worked, make sure you enter the date in which your employment status was directly affected by COVID-19. For example, if you were furloughed on April 1st, 2020, but have since returned to work, you will enter April 1st and not yesterday. Complete the rest of your work history information and add as many past employers as needed. Once completed, you will be required to certify that all information is true and correct. that you are responsible to keep informed of program benefits and reading program material, and that you acknowledge that any false statements are punishable by law and could result in a fine, imprisonment, restitution, and a loss of future benefits. Read through PUA's to-do list and take note of the following. Immediately file your weekly claim. Report all income for the week to include tips, commissions, and gratuities, even if you have not yet been paid. If you return to your normal pre-pandemic work hours or return to work and make over $494, you must stop filing a weekly claim. You must be able and available for work. If you are offered your job back and refuse for a non-COVID related reason, you are no longer eligible to receive PUA benefits. And at PCOR 3, you must look for work by contacting at least 3 different employers about job openings. Be sure to upload a valid government-issued ID and supporting documents to strengthen your claim. Congratulations! You have completed the PUA claim filing process. It's time to file your weekly claim. Click on the File Your Weekly Claim button to proceed. Read through the explanation of the weekly certification process and advisories before proceeding. Notice that the weekly certification process begins the week in which you claimed as your last day of work. Answer each page honestly and input additional information as required. However, if you have since returned to work, be sure that on the weekly claim of the day you returned, you adjust your weekly earnings accordingly. Congratulations! You have filed your weekly claim. Make sure you file for all previous weeks you were affected to present. Now continue to file every week thereafter to receive unemployment benefits for those weeks. For more information on how the Guam Department of Labor can assist you, visit our website at dol.guam.gov.
Be healthy. Be informed with ITD.
Tinapu, which is Pig Latin for Naputi, meant to be 910. Guam's favorite. Again, the KUM News Takeover, I-94. It's containing COVID 910. And we'll bring on Jason.
Hey, Jason.
Hello.
And because he's actually the one who really, really read this report that came out, Jay.
And when you mean really, really, I mean
really.
only. I mean only.
Yeah, so
that's radio talk for please jump in here and SOS.
Save us. So 910, and we're going to bring on we have Chip Gard, who's of course the former lead meteorologist for the National Weather Service, and also Landon Idlet, who is still at the NWS, and both these guys in conjunction with the Water and Energy Research Institute of the University of Guam worked on this study that predicts the typhoon season. So we'll bring both these guys up. Chip, Landon, good morning.
Hey, good morning.
Chip, are you there?
Yeah.
Okay,
Hi.
good. Right. Morning.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Doing well.
Full disclosure, I don't have a mask on.
I'm going to move back for my mic. So, guys, I guess Jason is our resident armchair weatherman here. And we're going to let him go into the weeds with you guys on this report, Jason.
Well, if my weather game is strong, it's only because of the friendship and the education I've gotten from these two. So, guys, we appreciate you guys coming on it. You know, Chip, before we get into the meat of the discussion, I just want to say I'm reminded of that one scene in Godfather 3. You know, it's like, you know, when Michael Corleone sits there and he's like, you know, just when I thought I was out, they pull me back in.
Yeah.
Because obviously none of us, I mean, you know, with all of the sophisticated scientific equipment and training and technology and gear that you guys have and everything like that. Obviously, you could not have predicted the pandemic. That's not your area of expertise when it comes to prediction, but you are able to make forecasts about the weather. So as far as like the report that you guys put out, what type of season are we looking at, and what should we expect going forward?
Okay, I'll let Landon start out, and then I can fill in the gaps.
Well, I was actually going to hand it off to Chip, but okay. Well, we are looking at an average season this year. The forecast or the outlook that we have that ties in closely to the current state of the climate. And the good news is we're not looking at a strong El Nino this year. We are in INSO neutral or El Nino oscillation neutral conditions. So that means we're kind of in an average pattern for this year. We've only had one tropical cyclone this year, and that was Typhoon Vong Fong. That passed over Palau well to our southwest as a weak disturbance and developed into a typhoon as it made landfall back in May in the Philippines. So you look back to 2015 where we had 7 or 8 tropical cyclones by this time of the year. So we're doing a lot better this year. Looking ahead, though, we have our busy part of the year ahead of us. That's typically July through November, and that's where we see most of the action in the West Pacific. So we do have to always be prepared, and even though we're looking at an average outlook for tropical cyclone activity across this region, it only takes one storm to cause problems for any certain island that's being affected by that. You look back at Super Typhoon Yutu in 2018, that was a direct hit to Saipan and Tinian. That's one of our worst fears. Again, it just takes one storm, even if we have a favorable outlook for activity across the region. Otherwise, we could have a season where we expect a lot of activity, and they all miss us. So we do have to keep that perspective and always be prepared.
And of course, maybe the larger concern from a macro view, especially from our friends in the healthcare industry, is coming up on what would be considered in most other markets, our winter season, which for us is rainy anyway. But you've got the flu season, which is going to come around again during those months, and then with weather situations and everything like that, there's going to be the typical lots of colds, lots of health anomalies, and of course they're worried that coronavirus may have a second wave, so obviously, you guys are on the weather prediction side, but I'm sure your information passing through is, going to be appreciated by those guys.
Yeah, we're definitely working closely with our Homeland Security partners here on Guam and in the CNMI, because we do have to take into account the COVID response. How are we going to be operating the shelters with evacuees crowding into these schools? So that's been a discussion going on for a couple months now. People are looking at that, and they are planning for that. So Homeland Security, they're on top of this, and this is across the board, across the United States. All of our partners are looking into this, especially with the spring months, with the tornado season, severe weather. This has been an ongoing conversation. So we are very much on par with that discussion. And so as far as us as Weather Service, our goal is to have the best forecast and give plenty of warning for any kind of threat that we have to the island.
Mm-hmm. Well, my question's not as fancy as Jason's.
Oh, boy.
But I just really want to know, you said we're looking at average activity this year for typhoon season, but when are we going to be seeing this activity? What are you guys projecting?
Well, I'll let Chip handle that one. He's got the numbers.
Okay, well, so as Landon indicated, we're in a fairly normal year. And how do we determine this a normal year? We look at sea surface temperature patterns in the Pacific, and we look at the atmospheric wind patterns in the Pacific, and we look at the wind patterns near the surface, in the middle of the atmosphere, and at the top of the atmosphere. And these temperature patterns and wind patterns fit in the group that is normal. It's neither El Nino nor La Nina, so it's in this INSO neutral area that we're looking at, and that's pretty much a normal kind of condition. So we're looking at the monsoon is starting to spread across the Philippines now. There's a storm developing over near the Philippines, and so this pretty much is on target. And we expect between now and the middle of July to see 2 to 3 tropical depressions and or tropical storms. Then systems tend to move more toward the north, and but we can still get a storm in July. But as they move north, and then around August, they'll start to move back to the south by September. And so we expect to see more typhoon activity in maybe the late August, September, October, into November timeframe. Once we get out to November, December, there's a little bit of uncertainty because the computer models haven't settled exactly on what's going to happen down in the November, December timeframe. So it's not unusual that we'll have to put out an updated prediction. But right now, this prediction looks pretty good.
Okay.
And right now, I'm looking at the upper level wind patterns, and things looks like maybe some thunderstorms are going to be moving in this weekend, and maybe some disturbances later on in the month.
Okay.
And if I can just cite from your report, Chip, I believe you said that there looks to be maybe a couple storms that may be nearing Category 4 strength, but at least at this point, not necessarily Category 5. And those tend to be, as far as your projections go, maybe about it said like 200 miles away from us. Was it to the south?
Well, it could be within, let's say, within 100 miles. We could see something.
Okay.
Most likely Category 1, 2, or 3. It's rare to actually get a direct hit by a Category 4 or Category 5 typhoon. But you have to be kind of prepared for those because, like, for example, YouTube, back in 2018, there's no meteorological reason why YouTube couldn't come right over Guam instead of Saipan and Tinian. I mean, they're 100 miles away, and there's absolutely no meteorological reason why we could not have gotten hit instead of them. So these are the kind of uncertainties that you're dealing with. So we can just tell you that the likelihood that typhoons are going to be in the area is pretty high. Whether they're going to hit us directly, it's very difficult to tell. But like Landon said, you have to be prepared.
Right. So again, as you mentioned, we're looking at possible thunderstorms this weekend. Next month, we'll see some tropical depressions, possibly some tropical storms. And then into August, September, there's a possibility that we may or may not see some typhoons. But at the end of the day, just be ready.
Even July, we could see a typhoon. Usually, if we see a typhoon in July, there's multiple typhoons out there, one say to the northwest, and then another one can develop near us. So by the middle of July through November, we certainly have a chance of having some typhoons, at least in the region.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's good, Landon, that you said that you guys were in communication with Homeland Security, because if we are looking at seeing some possible typhoons in the fall or in September, and that is the projected surge, and we've got a bunch of homeless people that have been waiting for some sort of help, it's good to know that at least we're still talking about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's definitely in the planning process.
Yeah, Landon, I wanted to ask because, we, as far as other projections, we can kind of like estimate when Guam might go into pandemic condition of readiness 3. That's still kind of like up in the air. But once we start to see these weather systems, regardless of the severity, you guys have always been really, really good at having the heavy weather briefings over at Civil Defense and Agana Heights. And, I've attended enough of those alongside UN, Chip. And I mean, it's basically standing room only. You've got, the mayors, you've got everybody in emergency response, from the military, from the local government, from the feds. Do you plan right now, because you're someone who's got a real good sense of technology and, doing like the new tools and, boys and their toys, but do you guys plan to do those kind of things like on Zoom so the community in general can kind of, tune in and continue to get the information in real time with that, if we're still not able to gather as we normally would?
Well, there are some concerns with Zoom. So the Weather Service is an agency. We're not permitted to use Zoom, but we do have other video conferencing capabilities.
Okay.
We will continue doing the heavy weather briefs with Homeland Security. I'm not exactly sure at this time what that will look like in a COVID situation. I've been over there a couple times for a series of conferences, and we have been socially distanced with face masks, so it may be something along those lines. But regardless, that support will continue, hopefully with even more lead time, hopefully, because people need to be prepared, especially so they can start planning their process. And this is why we tell people to plan now when there's not a storm threatening the islands. This is where you can think clearly and be ready, so when that happens, you know your actions to take. And so, again, the heavy weather briefs, all the support to our core partners, the Homeland Security offices, that will not go away.
Okay. Good word. Well, I'm going to share a funny story because I remember when Ken Nicholas and we actually went to Landon's office and did a story with one of the post-heavy weather briefings with him and his crew over there. And he was like, hey, what kind of gear are you guys using to do like your Facebook live streams? Because we want to do some more of that stuff. He was like a kid in a candy store, Bree, and he was asking us all this stuff. And Landon, you actually went online and you actually ordered a lot of the same gear that we're using. And I know, we were exchanging messages for about a week back and forth. But certainly you guys have the equipment right now where you guys can, put this stuff on Facebook Live for the benefit of the community.
Yeah, I'm trying to get a little more technically savvy over here because I do want to get more into video production and how we can improve our communications. We have Facebook right now, and I'm working on setting up Twitter. I know a couple of our media partners out here in the region are on Twitter, and I think that's an audience that we can cater to, sending quick tweets on weather alerts and changes in the weather situation.
Oh, God help you when you guys start doing Instagram. You're going to have people starting to slide into your DMs left and right. We're right in the middle
I'm already asking
heavy
about
weather
Instagram.
briefings.
And right now the field offices are not approved to use Instagram yet, although our weather headquarters does have an Instagram account. If and when that is approved, I want to hop on Instagram as well. So we have a couple of communications platforms that I do want to get involved in sooner than later and just improve our communication strategy just to get more information out to the public.
Mm-hmm. And you guys are a 24/7 operation, and I've been to your office, and you guys tend to work in kind of like close quarters, and you've got all of that equipment, and the big computer systems and everything like that. Basically, your crew all shares. How has it been for you guys to work in a socially distant operational manner? How have you guys had to change your operations?
Well, luckily it's not been too difficult for us. We are mandated to wear face masks at all times in NOAA and Weather Service facilities, but based on our operations floor, our office layout here in the building, we're already socially distant, so if we have 2 or 3 people on duty in the operations area, we have about 10 to 12 feet between each forecaster, so we are already distant. We also wipe down all of our computers, our monitors, our desktops, our chairs before and after each duty shift so that we are clean and ready to go for the next guy to come in.
Oh, very good. So, back to Chip real quick, sir. It's always been a pleasure working with you, and how much more can we expect to see of your research? I guess even if you're not going to be in the office as you were for so many decades.
I work with the Weather Service on things like climate and tsunamis and this typhoon forecast, for example. And I also work with Mark Lander, Dr. Lander over at the University of Guam. So while I'm retired, I'm not dead. But we do some training too. Like yesterday, we went up to Retidian Point and we did some surf observer training and also some weather spotter training for the fish and wildlife people up there, and also for some of the National Weather Service forecasters. So, stay a little involved, do stuff that I used to get paid for it's payback time now. So, anyway, these guys at the Weather Service do a terrific job, and so it's a real pleasure to work with them occasionally.
Yeah, let me add to that, Jason.
Sure.
I like to pick on Chip. I always told him that he's old but not obsolete.
That's a very nice thing to say in a socially distant atmosphere where you're away from striking distance. But that's very, very nice.
I will say, and I've made it very known here, it's been such a pleasure working with Chip, and I will not let him stray far from this office. I have him on speed dial and ready to work with him. And so it was great to have him up at Retidian doing some training with us yesterday. It brings back memories of having Chip over here in the office. So I miss having him over here. And so I'm not going to let them get too far away from us.
Now you just can't get rid of him.
I hope to say the same thing about I hope to say the same thing about Chris maybe in about like 20 years when we can like hang up our microphones.
A point of personal privilege, Jason. well, guys, again, we wanted to just bring you on and kind of talk about the weather.
Yeah, well, Chris, thanks for lining up Landon because it makes it a lot easier for because now I'm unofficial, so he's the official guy. And,
well, yeah, again, we'll get you guys, let you get back to crunching whatever weather patterns you're crunching over there.
Yeah,
we're crunching
tennis.
Yeah,
okay,
you're crunching tennis.
I'm sorry. One thing. Final question. What is the preferred quarantine lockdown meal of the meteorologist? What do you guys eat when you're passing the time and you can't go out and do the fancy things that you guys normally do?
My gosh, that's we take anything here. Usually what we can pick up on the way, but I miss having a good buffet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we still like to support the restaurants around, so we'll go get the takeout stuff but it's really the people that have stayed in business and have done the takeout and they've done a real service, and so we'd like to support them.
Amen. Well, thanks, guys, and stay in touch. Hopefully, I don't have to call you guys too much, and that usually means the weather's fine. Okay.
Well, you guys take care.
All right, take care.
We'll talk to you soon.
Okay.
All right, guys.
Bye.
Wash your hands.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye. 9:28. Thank you for that, Jay. Like I said, he is our resident armchair weatherman. And we're going to take a short break, and we're going to come back and talk about disinfecting and cleaning services provided by APEC, and that's next here on Containing COVID. Good morning.
GU Self-Storage.
It's not always easy trying something new. Sometimes you have to help your loved ones along. Nana is so used to her weekly trips to the bank that going online can be a little scary for her. But her grandson knows that banking online is safer and easier, so he's teaching her how to get started using Bank of Guam's online banking videos. Teaching is one way to show our loved ones we care, keep your family safe at home, and show them how to bank online. Find easy-to-use online banking tutorials at bankofguam.com or on our Instagram and Facebook pages. Bank of Guam.
Keeping you informed, KUAM News brings you Banking 671, brought to you by the Bank of Guam, the People's Bank, and Coast 360 Federal Credit Union. Together, we thrive.
KUAM News COVID-19 Takeover on I-94 FM is presented locally by Ambrose Inc.
GU Self-Storage, conveniently located near the Harmon McDonald's. We offer affordable rates, online payments, and auto bill pay for your convenience. Plus gate access daily from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. Call us today at 648-7867 for more information.
With the new challenges we're all facing, First Hawaiian Bank wants to make sure you have access to your financial world. With FHB Online and our mobile app, we hope to make banking the least of your worries. Visit fhb.com/digital.
We hope that you and your loved ones are safe and healthy during the COVID-19 pandemic. It has been a challenging time for all, but now, more than ever, our cancer patients and caregivers need us. Although we are apart, we stand united in the fight against cancer. The American Cancer Society Guam is excited to announce our first virtual Relay for Life. Join us on Saturday, June 27th at 6:30 p.m. on KUAM TV 8, as well as on I-94 FM and streaming on KUAM News digital platforms. Cancer does not stop, and neither can we. On June 27th, let's celebrate together and fight cancer. Visit relayforlife.org/GuamGU to find out how you can participate in the 2020 virtual Relay for Life Guam.
Be healthy. Be informed with ITD. Be healthy. Be informed with ITD.
keeping you informed. KUAM News brings you Banking 671, brought to you by the Bank of Guam, the People's Bank, and Coast 360 Federal Credit Union. Together, we thrive.
KUAM News COVID-19 Takeover on I-94 FM is presented locally by Ambrose Inc.
GU Self-Storage, conveniently located near the Harmon McDonald's. We offer affordable rates, online payments, and auto bill pay for your convenience. Plus gate access daily from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. Call us today at 648-7867 for more information.
With the new challenges we're all facing, First Hawaiian Bank wants to make sure you have access to your financial world. With FHB Online and our mobile app, we hope to make banking the least of your worries. Visit fhb.com/digital.
We hope that you and your loved ones are safe and healthy during the COVID-19 pandemic. It has been a challenging time for all, but now, more than ever, our cancer patients and caregivers need us. Although we are apart, we stand united in the fight against cancer. The American Cancer Society Guam is excited to announce our first virtual Relay for Life. Join us on Saturday, June 20th.
Guam's favorite. It's containing COVID. I wanted to bring on Tom and Andrew of APEC Disinfecting and Cleaning Services to kind of share with our audience here some of the things that they're doing. Good morning, guys.
Good morning.
Let me get you. Sorry, you get situated here.
Well, I was gonna say, are you taking a selfie of us? Because you had that whole thing for a second.
Multitasking.
It is right. So we'll bring them on. Tom, Andrew, you guys there? Good morning.
Yeah. Good morning, Chris.
Good morning, boys.
Good morning, Chris.
Let's just get right into it, man. So APEC, you guys offer a ton of services, and I think that there's probably a big demand for disinfecting and cleaning, not just because we're seeing more businesses reopen as we slide down the PCOR scale, but also because businesses that have been open are disinfecting, not just for the employees, but for the customers too, right?
That's correct. Absolutely, yeah. First of all, I think the businesses want an assurance that they can present to their clients that we've been disinfected, we're safe to come in regarding a potential COVID reinfection, and also for their employees. As their employees come back into the workspace, they want to feel comfortable that their workspace is disinfected and safe in regard to disinfection, with COVID in mind.
Guys, Jason Salas here. Thanks for joining us again. And I've got a question. The governor has said that, obviously we're moving in a phased approach to hopefully what will be a full reopening of the island in the next few months. But are there certain industries that you have seen have more of a response, like office buildings, dental offices, obviously with restaurants and places like that? But as far as specific types of businesses, what are you guys seeing as far as requests for your services?
Andrew, I'll let you address that one.
So a lot of the businesses that have approached us are a lot of the retail or the bigger malls and restaurants, if you will. There are other industries that allow us or kind of inquired with us, i.e. the hotels, the restaurants, and I mean just the places that are anticipating a big influx of customers that are becoming into the into their business as they opened up and go into 100% capacity whenever that is.
Now, as far as the operations of your own business, what type of additional training have you had to have, and what type of research did you have to do in order to make sure that your own staff would go out there and apply the cleaning and disinfectant services safely? And is this equipment and gear that you already have, given the specific nature of COVID, or did you have to go out and buy all different types of infectants and chemicals?
I think what he's trying to say is this is kind of like a new. The disinfecting side of it, this is a new need that was created because of this pandemic. So, and unpacking what Jay said, it's how are you guys able to stand these great services up so quickly and at the same time while respecting and adhering to all of the different guidelines and protocols that relative to COVID?
I would like to address that first.
Go ahead.
Drew, if you don't mind. We've been in the business of providing environmental services for Guam and Saipan for 22 years.
Wow.
One of the services we've provided for a significant period of time are microbial remediation services in the form of mold remediation, which is once again, it's a microbe, spores, etc. And we're professionally certified to do that, have the equipment for it. Some of that equipment, the approach is somewhat similar to the COVID. So when this came along, it was a natural segue.
Wow.
And there's actually 5 levels of training that the people that are doing the COVID disinfection have taken,
wow,
including microbial disinfection certification, bloodborne pathogen, etc. And what we do is we make sure, in having done this, that not only do we disinfect effectively, and we follow an EPA written work plan protocol and use EPA disinfectants, but we also protect our workers safely from the products, because there's a lot of opportunity for respiratory distress using disinfection solutions, particularly if you make some wrong, etc. So that is the perhaps longer answer, but and that is why. So it was a natural segue.
Wow. What about gear, man? I've seen some of the stuff you guys do, and it looks like you really have top of the line gear.
Drew?
Right. So what we have is an ultra low volume dual tank fogger. And what this allows us to kind of expend disinfectants throughout the areas without, so we actually do manual hand wiping on high touch surfaces and high touch areas. But these foggers allow us to get in places and kind of disperse the disinfectant further in a wider array of areas. And so, yeah, we did suit up, although, I kind of just piggyback on what Tom said. This was a natural evolution of what we already did, but we did have to get some additional foggers and other disinfectants specific to COVID. A lot of the stuff we already had was can neutralize COVID, but we wanted the literature there and actually CDC and US EPA to kind of say, and the actual text on the product that said it counters COVID-19. And so we did have to kind of get some of that supplies, but naturally we already were prepared with the PPE and the equipment ready to go.
Do you mainly provide commercial services, or do you also offer for residential services?
We actually, it's throughout. We're not biased. I know everybody.
Revenue's revenue, man.
Yeah, you're not biased because Jason's bedroom and he's.
Oh yeah.
Right, and
That's a 3-day job.
We understand that everybody is trying to take the proper precautions and measures to counter COVID, and not just that. The disinfectants we have kind of attack a wide range of microbes, not necessarily just the COVID.
You guys get all the cooties.
Coronavirus. Right. So, but absolutely, we're open to residential, commercial, and we're open for business to everyone.
Okay, I'm sorry, I've got one more question. So we talked about the application of your treatments, and you guys do thorough spraying and you do wiping, but of course, everybody's a COVID expert these days, right? And everybody's talking about the ultraviolet treatment and, like basically like the black light and everything. Does that actually apply in the situations and the specific environments that you guys go into?
I could address that at first, and the protocols that we've seen that are US EPA, CDC recommended, they do not. Although the UV light will eventually kill various viruses and microbes, it is not directly as effective, nor quick, nor was it recommended by the US EPA protocols that we recommended. So that we have reviewed and go by.
I had a question. When you provide your services to commercial businesses and you do your disinfecting and your sanitization, is it like a one-time deal, or do you have to go in every day? How does this work?
And so, yes, what we offer is we offer an initial and thorough disinfection for the business. And we often kind of have to gauge our reoccurring services based on the influx of customers and employees you have. Obviously, the more employees, the more customers that you gain or have would warrant more frequent of a visit. Whereas if you're just an office space and everyone's kind of practicing social distancing and all the kind of established protocols, then the frequency will be less and less. And that really caters, and it will be kind of relative to the type of business and industry you run to.
Right, and so if people want some of these different tiered services, or maybe they require frequent services, how do they get a hold of you guys? And we have viewers in the NMI too, so just anywhere around, how do they get a hold of APEC?
Right, and so just as Thomas said, we have a location here on Guam and in Saipan, and we're mobile. They can reach us at 671-477-7310. We also have an emergency hotline at 671-858-2852. Our website is up and running. It's apecguam.net. And you can also reach us at apecguam@guam.net via email. And so we kind of monitor. We understand everybody has different needs and priorities. And we're geared up with the labor support and the amount of equipment to mobilize several teams simultaneously. So we can offer that as well.
I would like to add that once we do a disinfection, for the peace of mind of the folks that are in the facility or going to be entering that facility, we offer a sticker, a decal, kind of like when you have Chief Force Security, whatever.
Right.
And we indicate that the premises had been disinfected, provide a date for it by APEC according to specific protocols that can be placed in the window. And in addition, notice of that disinfection is also posted on the website. So somebody wants to find out, hey, if this restaurant, whatever, been disinfected, they could go to that website and find out if it is.
Well, I've got just one last question, just for me. This is Jason again, guys. One thing we like to do here on the show is we like to, celebrate, success stories, because obviously you guys are one of the key players that are helping businesses that are struggling right now and have really tough days ahead get back on their feet and get back to normal. So as a business for just your operations and everything like that, how has the uptake in jobs that you guys have had? How has that been? I'm sure you've had like a surge in business and everything. And have you had to actually add a headcount to be able to facilitate all of this this new business that you're getting?
Drew, you want to add that?
Yeah, absolutely. So our personnel, we haven't had we haven't kind of furloughed or shut down our teams. We have been deemed mission critical or mission essential. And so, however, the influx of work, because of the need for disinfection, we have kept our guys at work longer hours and in odd days, and even on the weekends to satisfy the customers' needs. We've had a lot of responses to the federal government, DOD specifically, and to help them, counteract the effects of COVID. And so we have been going 100 miles per hour with all the guys we've had. We had to upgrade our labor support, so we brought in some other people to support us. But yeah, we've been going real hard since everything started, and we're continuing. And if I may just add, a lot of this is not just a plug for our business, but because we're local, we want to make sure that people are safe while they're doing this. Everybody wants to do the disinfection, but we want people to be safe and responsible. Mixing certain chemicals together can create toxic gases. People have to understand the exposure limits per chemical. And so we want to make sure that people are safe. And also to the employers out there, the business owners, you might want to take the initiative, right, to save money to kind of allow your employees to disinfect. However, I advise that they are properly trained with these chemicals, the appropriate PPE. For example, a respirator, you need a medical clearance, you need a fit test, you need a respiratory program by OSHA regulation and guidelines. our experience allows us to be already ready to go for this. And again, we are the professionals. This is our bread and butter. And so we just advise everyone out there. We highly encourage disinfection, because I have family members. I don't want them to be going to a facility that hasn't been disinfected. However, I urge them to take the proper precautions to make sure your personnel is trained and they're safe and they know what chemicals they're using. Because I know recently, I think there was a cleaning team that were overly exposed to just using bleach, and one of them was unresponsive, and then it becomes life-threatening.
Right.
And so we want to just urge our community out there to be safe as they disinfect, and as we kind of journey through this COVID, pandemic, that they approach it in a smart and responsible way.
Well, guys, again, we wanted to just bring you on and let people hear what you guys got to offer as, we start to reopen more businesses and, residences as well are going to be looking at disinfecting. And we wanted to get you on because, like you said, it's your bread and butter. It's what you do. So thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Well done, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, Andrew. Thanks, Tom. Wash you guys' hands. Well, disinfect your hands.
There you go. You guys be safe.
Okay, you too. All right.
I don't think you have to tell them twice to wash their hands.
They're like, wash our hands? That's passé. We don't wash our hands. We do microbial remediation.
You're preaching to the choir right there, man. Those guys get that one-liner that you've now made famous. They get that on a completely different level.
Right, they do. Hey, it's 9:49. We're going to come back and end the show on a good note. Right here, it's the KUAM News Takeover, Guam's favorite containing COVID. Good morning.
Keeping you informed, KUAM News brings you Banking 671, brought to you by the Bank of Guam, the People's Bank, and Coast 360 Federal Credit Union. Together, we thrive.
KUAM News COVID-19 Takeover on I-94 FM is presented locally by Ambrose Inc.
GU Self-Storage, conveniently located near the Harmon McDonald's. We offer affordable rates, online payments, and auto bill pay for your convenience. Plus gate access daily from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. Call us today at 648-7867 for more information.
With the new challenges we're all facing, First Hawaiian Bank wants to make sure you have access to your financial world. With FHB Online and our mobile app, we hope to make banking the least of your worries. Visit fhb.com/digital.
We hope that you and your loved ones are safe and healthy during the COVID-19 pandemic. It has been a challenging time for all, but now, more than ever, our cancer patients and caregivers need us. Although we are apart, we stand united in the fight against cancer. The American Cancer Society Guam is excited to announce our first virtual Relay for Life. Join us on Saturday, June 27th at 6:30 p.m. on KUAM TV 8, as well as on I-94 FM and streaming on KUAM News digital platforms. Cancer does not stop, and neither can we. On June 27th, let's celebrate together and fight cancer. Visit relayforlife.org/GuamGU to find out how you can participate in the 2020 virtual Relay for Life Guam.
Be healthy. Be informed with ITD.
It's not always easy trying something new. Sometimes you have to help your loved ones along. Nana is so used to her weekly trips to the bank that going online can be a little scary for her. But her grandson knows that banking online is safer and easier, so he's teaching her how to get started using Bank of Guam's online banking videos. Teaching is one way to show our loved ones we care, keep your family safe at home, and show them how to bank online. Find easy-to-use online banking tutorials at bankofguam.com or on our Instagram and Facebook pages. Bank of Guam, member FDIC.
Be healthy. Be informed with ITD.
COVID. Yep, public health taking the show on the road all the way down south in Molesso. What do we got on that, Bree?
Oh, so we understand that the people are already starting to line up for the testing. You should know, we announced this earlier today, that the testing in Maritza, it actually starts at 1 o'clock this afternoon. It is from 1 to 4. This is at the Maritza Senior Center. Again, it is free. You don't need to have symptoms to get tested. Just bring an ID and get tested. Again, Maritza Senior Center today, 1 to 4 o'clock this afternoon.
All right, and this is all in line with the outreach testing that, remember when we went to PCOR 2, the governor had said with the gradual reopening of businesses and the lifting of certain restrictions that it would be accompanied by a testing effort of the public, and that's what we've been seeing the last few days. They tested few weeks, right? 187 people yesterday.
They've widened their net. So now, before you had to have symptoms, now you don't. So please, if
now
you can,
you just have to have a pulse.
It was also interesting because I wrote up the story last night when the numbers came in, and it was like 187 samples tested yesterday, 2 positive, but 180 of those were from the southern community testing the drive-through yesterday.
In Iran.
Yeah.
Right.
So great to see, our friends down south coming out, because I know there was some concern about that. Remember when it was up at Ostumbo in the first couple of days, people were like, why are the numbers so low, and are people just kind of timid to come out, and they were afraid that they were going to get immediately yanked and put into quarantine. But no, people are learning, and people now want to do the right thing. So
right. I just wish the hours weren't when they are, or if they could be a little bit
5
longer,
to 7,
because
right?
because
7 to 9,
we're working.
Right.
I think somebody raised that issue earlier in the show.
Yeah. Good morning.
Good morning.
Let's end our show on a good note here. To bring on our buddy Jojo Camacho of Ambrose, and we're talking about some of the great things that they've done during the COVID. Good morning, Jojo.
Hi, Jojo.
Hey, good morning, Chris. Good morning, Sabrina.
Good morning.
We're gonna pop up these pictures, but first of all, I know you guys do a ton of charity work. How was the pivot to go from monetary donations, which is what we were doing before the COVID or whatever, and again, you guys have been there for us with Giving Tuesday. But how do you pivot from the type of donations and assistance and help that you guys normally do to what was needed during the COVID?
Well, it's really a matter of listening to what people need out there, right? The frontliners needed PPE. There was different needs throughout the island. The frontliners were tackling everything on a day-to-day basis, and understanding some of the industries that we're involved with out there, like healthcare. We sell disinfectants, and on this PPE, we took a look internally, tried to see what we had. I mean, as you guys know, the demand was overwhelming island-wide, so we just took a look at what we had and how we could help, and we put a plan together. All the teams got together, the executives gave us directions, said, hey, if we have it, let's see what we can do, and let's get it out there into the community, into the hands of the people who need it. So, it really wasn't much of a difficult task to pivot, only because, being a good neighbor and understanding how things work here on Guam, we felt that we needed to be there and be a part of the drive to make things successful in the end. And hopefully we're getting there.
Right. I mean, I'm just looking at the numbers, $35,000 in PPE supplies donated to frontliners, hundreds of meals donated to frontline workers. There's even this 3D printer.
Yes.
And raw material.
Yeah, that was that 3D printer. That was exciting. When I went on Facebook and again, we were looking for ways to help, and I had just recently acquired a 3D printer, and I came across this page that said PPE for Guam, and they were calling out for printers, for filament, the plastic. It's like this roll of plastic line that they use to make these 3D, I guess, print things. So when I saw the need, when I saw the need, I said, hey, we have the raw material, we have a printer. Hopefully it's what they're looking for. So I reached out to Allison over there with PPE for Guam, and when we gave her a call, she's like, man, the biggest thing we're after is filament. So I said, okay, no problem. We've got 20 rolls. We'll bring it right over. So later on, I think it was that day or the day after, I drove right on down to their location in Agana, which they had just moved into, and then we dropped everything off. So that was real exciting, and it goes really far. So, we're real excited to see people get resourceful like that, and we're glad to be a part of it.
You know what also goes far is water. And you guys have those really cool looking cans.
I call it the Mullard can.
You're thinking you're getting beer, but you're really getting water.
The Mullard can. I'm going to make sure I frame that one and put it on the wall in the office. But yeah, that's something that Anheuser-Busch, being such a great partner, they're able to turn around and brew this, not brew, but actually turn the brewing line into just an assembly line for water. So it's water in a can. There's not much changes that need to be made, and I say that not knowing all the work that goes on to clear the assembly line. But yeah, this water is actually canned, and what we do is typically, our GM Tom Shimizu, he's well aware. We've lived in Micronesia for decades now. And, when we need help, everything's at least 2 to 3 weeks away. Unless you own a plane and you can fly it in yourself, it's quite a bit to get it here. So what Tom did is he gathered some partners, Matson and some other shareholders like the American Red Cross. They made the request, and Anheuser-Busch fulfilled it and gave us all of these pallets of water, which we kept on standby in the event we needed, storm, calamity, natural disaster, whatever it is, so we can assist people in Micronesia. We had it on hand, and as soon as the need arose, we heard that there was a need for water. There were some people that couldn't get their daily basic needs. That's when we saw what happened in the stores. People just went bananas out there. So yeah, we gathered it up, and we provided the water for people to take care of people on Guam.
Chris is right, though, the Mullard cans, because I know when I first started seeing the pictures coming in with the press releases about what you guys were doing, and I was thinking, whoa, they're giving out beer.
Wow, they donated all this beer to the Roosevelt.
Hey, we're first informers.
All right, Bree.
Yeah, it's working with wonderful partners out there in the community. We saw everybody pull together, and we definitely wanted to help out because Guam is our home, and we're glad to help out any way we can.
And that's why I wanted to bring you on, because we think you're setting a good example as a responsible and generous corporate citizen over there at Ambrose. So, Jojo, again, you guys are our COVID heroes for the day. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, and we just want to applaud everybody out there who kept Guam going when times got tough. The frontliners, of course, the EMTs, the police, the fire, also the people in the stores, the cashiers, stockers. Everybody out there. Thank you so much for doing your part to keep Guam running in these tough times. We appreciate everyone's help.
Thank you, Jojo. Wash your hands, buddy.
All right, take it easy.
Okay, be safe.
Well, there you go. Jojo Camacho of Ambrose. Hey, proud sponsor of Containing COVID. Look at that. It's 10:02. Also proudly brought to you by Cowboy Enterprises, Bank of Guam, Coast 360, and IT&E. Good job today, Sabrina.
Good job, Chris. Jacob.
And Jacob, and of course, Jason Salas, who definitely got his talking in this morning. Anything else?
We let him out of the corner.
Anything else you want to add in here, Bree?
No, just thank you, everybody, for listening and watching us online and on KUAM TV. Make sure to join us at 6 o'clock for KUAM News Primetime.
Yes, and again, on our Edward R. Murrow Award-winning social media networks. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm just trying to get our... Here we go.
Song?
Yeah. I just really love this I Love Guam from Kenjo.
Yeah, it's a nice song.
Classic. Never gets old. Good job today, Bree.
Good job.
Way to hold those senators accountable. I want to go back and watch that.
What?
No, hey, just keep it up, girl. You go. That's it.
Everybody, please watch Session.
Yeah.
You'll know what's going on. Be informed.
And entertained. And probably get a little bit upset, too. Hey, my name's Chris. For Sabrina, Esta Joe.
Bye.